here. Republicans are claiming that they disagree, that there's like procedural technicalities, like with what's going on in Virginia. But what the Virginia voters approved an amendment in a statewide election. The last map that was drawn was in 2024. That's also mid-decade. So technically, even that one would have to be thrown out. Like they're not making any they're not making a congruent argument. So overturning a voter approved amendment based on procedural timing after voters have already approved it, that's elevating hyper technical procedural objections over democratic legitimacy, which is what should be preserved, including by the Virginia Commonwealth Constitution. Democratic legitimacy takes precedence. And I don't know if people are very well versed on these topics, but yeah, I could talk about this at length, but yeah, no, that's just complete bullshit that it's unconstitutional. They're trying to get that on a technicality.
Okay. All right. To your point. Oh, Jonathan. Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan. Come in.
Yeah, I want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
I know you sat there and I know the lady before sat there and said that the Republicans, they're trying to, they did whatever. It was unconstitutional, but it's not. Who put that the Constitution in place where it said that they had to follow certain policies and procedures in the 1970s? Who was it? Was it the Republicans or the Democrats that came up with that piece of legislation that they voted on?
It was actually both.
Nope, it was Democrats. It was not bipartisan. It was Democrats. Go look it up. Look it up. We got a host right here.
No, you made a claim. You made a claim. Show a source.
So real quick, I'm laughing at Sarah's comment. Sarah ain't playing. Sarah, you ain't playing this morning. Real quick, let me just bring it back, Jonathan. If you could get a source, that would be amazing. But let me just read this quote because it goes to what I want to talk about, and I want to bring Neil in and Carolina. I might come back to you on this too. This is from Justice D. Arthur Kelsey, writing in the majority opinion from the Virginia Supreme Court that struck down this referendum. It says the Commonwealth submitted a proposed constitutional amendment to Virginia voters in an unprecedented manner that violated the intervening election requirement. This violation irreparably undermines the integrity of the resulting referendum vote and renders it null and void. So that was in the opinion of the Justice D. Arthur Kelsey from the state of Virginia. So if you wanted to know where they are getting the basis for striking this down, that was their argument in a split 4-3 vote. So I do want to mention that as well. Let me bring in Neil. And then I want to come back to Carolina and talk about that piece of it as well. So thank y'all for being here, by the way. Tay, did I miss you when you came in here? My bad, fam. Thank you so much. All right, let me go to Neil. Neil, what are your thoughts on what happened in Virginia? What do you think?
Good morning, Smitty. I think this is the first time I've ever been on your panel, brother.
Oh, man, it's an honor to have you.
Well, no, it's an honor for me to be here for you.
Thank you, fam.
Always. I'm not gonna say too much about that Atlanta Braves hat on your head, but that's a conversation for another day. We can talk about that later. So a few level setting things for me as someone who, and also hello Carolina. This is the first time. Obviously, we are. It's good to see you as always. Jermaine, good to see you as well. Franco, I think this is the first time we've ever interacted. And Jonathan, same, first time we've ever interacted. So definitely want to extend my greetings to everybody. So yeah, for me, this, I think we should focus on this recent decision. But I think if we are not students of history, right, which I am, right, I understand that this started the day that Obama got inaugurated back in 2009. There was a program that was instituted called Red State in capital letters. So for anyone who needs to understand where redistricting started, it started when the right was immediately under threat by a black man being president. We can talk about Obama's policies. We can talk about how much of a continuation of an imperialist he was. We can talk about that ad nauseum. At the end of the day, right, the redistricting conversation started in the modern era on that date in 2009 or the redistricting fight. It continued with the Supreme Court nominees, the ones that were successful, the ones that weren't. Merrick Garland comes to mind, obviously, and the holdup there. Don't need to revisit what happened. For those that know, you can look it up. For those that don't, you can look it up. Again, I'm coming at this from a focused standpoint. I am not coming at and as the descendant of folks who migrated from the Carter. My last name is Carter. My folks came from the Carter plantation in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I know that, what my history is. I know, my folks are a part of the Great Migration. I know that, who fought, who unalived. And I also know about the lack of representation. I also know how much, my folks had to fight to get where they're at. I know and understand my history. I know and understand how much fight had to get into it. And I think now with the state of Virginia, I look at other states and, I don't really appreciate this like tat for tat situation, because while this decision was coming down, Tennessee was literally rewriting history and literally split the city of Memphis in two. My good friend, State Senator London Lamar, was literally testifying on behalf of the residents that she represents in the city of Memphis, right? Not just Black residents, but all the residents of Memphis, right? Talking about how important it was to maintain that congressional district. And it was literally split in two overnight. It wasn't even overnight. It was in a couple hours. All of this is in all the redistricting, all of the, kind of red mapping of it all is in reaction to, as Carolina and Franco and even Jermaine even said, in reaction to the impending 2026 election results. And we're not even there yet, right? There are still, we are still in the throngs of early voting for Louisiana right now. And the governor of Louisiana canceled the congressional elections for that state while early voting is happening.
Right.
So this is big. So yes, I understand your life is about Virginia, and I know you're talking about the bigger picture, but we got to talk about the entire map. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We just talked about, and I'll land here. We just had elections in primary elections in Ohio and Indiana this past Tuesday. They could literally, and the Indiana legislator, state senate, but will erase Andre Carson's seat before the general election in November. Despite the fact that he was duly reelected in the primary. And I'll land there.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, no, thank you for broadening the aperture of this discussion. No, I appreciate that, to include Louisiana. I did talk about it a little bit when I first started, but no, I'm glad you brought it up again. It was very important, and the way you brought it up was especially poignant. I appreciate it. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about the decision yesterday of the Virginia Supreme Court blocking the referendum that would have allowed the Democrats to gain potentially 4 U.S. House of Representatives seats. Let me read to you again the reason. As Justice D. Arthur Kelsey wrote in the majority opinion, the Commonwealth submitted a proposed constitutional amendment to Virginia voters in an unprecedented manner that violated the intervening election requirement. That was his decision. Carolina, yes, I'm definitely coming back to you in a second. So that's what we're talking about. Thank y'all for all of the Swan Raiders coming through. Appreciate y'all. Love you guys. Thank you for coming in. Everybody, appreciate you being here. Please tap the screen, share out the live. Thank y'all for knocking out the gift goals as you guys always do. All right, let me go to Carolina. Then I'm going to drop down to Jonathan. Then we'll go to Jermaine. Carolina, what do you think about Justice Kelsey's majority opinion in regards to the violating the intervening election requirement. And then we'll go to Jonathan.
I think it is extremely an elementary decision on his behalf. And real quick, just to say to Neil, I'm from Indianapolis, and even though I'm living here in Virginia right now, Andre Carson is a friend of mine, and over my unalive body are they going to get Andre Carson out of office, so we going to fight for him. So yeah, I just want to say that real quick. But yeah, so here's the issue. Like we can attack Kelsey's reasoning on a few different angles. One would be democratic legitimacy, selective proceduralism, historical context, and then the practical impact of it. So his statement, it undermines the integrity of the resulting referendum vote and renders it null and void. Incorrect. Because what actually undermined the integrity of the vote? Did voters lack information? No. Was there fraud? No. Actually, there was an attempt at fraud by the Republicans to try to frame it. They sent out these flyers saying, don't let this go back to the Jim Crow era of vote no on redistricting. So they attempted fraud. Were ballots tampered with? Also no. Were voters prevented from participating? Also no. Did the court simply just like the procedural pathway? That's what it's really about. So, here's the argument. Like, the people voted, the votes were counted, the public made a decision. So my first point on this is that the referendum already happened and the people already ratified it. They could have challenged this when they put it to a referendum. They chose not to because they thought that they were going to get their way out of this. The second that the referendum was posed, if it was such a violation to the Constitution, that would have been the moment to prevent the referendum from happening, and they had legal means to do that through their General Assembly, if that were the case. So we can argue that the court elevated legislative timing disputes above actual democratic participation. Integrity in a democracy comes from voters having the ability to make informed decisions and cast ballots freely, not from courts retroactively invalidating outcomes. Additionally, we can point to, like, many of these are conservative legal actors, right, that are defending partisan gerrymandering where it's beneficial to them. And they tolerate voter suppression laws. They support aggressive purges of voter rolls in red states. And they accept maps that dilute minority voting strength. So, like, they're okay with that, but they're not okay with this. And, like, even though this is a state level, federal precedent does have an impact in this. So if the courts were equally aggressive about protecting voting integrity, especially when it comes to Black districts, then they would not be diluting those districts. Polling places would not be closed. The voter access would not be restricted. Additionally, the remedy that they are offering is anti-democratic. So regardless of what they states in their constitution, when something threatens the integrity of democracy, that has to take precedent over this. So throwing out the votes of millions of Virginians because of a legislative procedural dispute. Mind you, it's a dispute. It's not definitive that this is unconstitutional. This is a dispute. That punishes voters for actions that they had absolutely no control over. And also, unprecedented does not automatically mean unconstitutional. And I think we need to get that into our heads. There have been many expansions of democracy that were unprecedented. The civil rights protections were unprecedented. Voting rights expansions were unprecedented. So courts need to be cautious about using like this novelty itself as justification to invalidate democratic participation. That, I think, is one of the biggest issues right there. And then also my final point on this ruling is not isolated because it is tied to a larger movement to weaken the Voting Rights Act and make attacks on affirmative action and also aggressive gerrymandering. So that has to be tied into the federal issue as well.
Okay. Thank you, Catalina. Let me just switch up the order. Jonathan, give me 1 second. I'm going to switch up the order a little bit. Let me let Lovely and Liberty come in, and then Jonathan, I'll go to you and Jermaine, then we'll just go straight at the panel. Lovely, good morning. How are you? Hope you're doing well. What are your thoughts about the Virginia Supreme Court blocking this referendum for the Democrats?
I have no problem with it.
Okay.
The reason why I have no problem with it, because voting should not just be based on color. I think, they was trying to get 9 seats and leave 1 Republican seat. I think if they wouldn't have never pulled this stunt, we wouldn't be redrawing districts down here in Florida. And I want to be honest with you, Smitty,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be really candid.
Mm-hmm.
The race card is being so overplayed to the point where it's becoming null and void. And I think you should be basing your vote off what the party has to offer you, not just because you're black, you vote Democrat. And I will never agree with that. And I want to ask the Democratic Party people, what are they offering you for your vote? Have they told you what they stand for? I mean, it's all I hear is the Trump hate. I don't hear anything about what they're going to do for you. What happened if they do win? Are you still going to be in the same position 5 years from now? You need to ask yourself some tough questions. And I hate to say it, I love Bernie Sanders. If they go back to table issues, blue collar worker, blue collar man, what's going on? Yeah, debate off of gas, grocery prices, rent prices. Stop with the race play, because it's just turning people off. And if you do this again in 2028, a Republican will be sitting in that seat again. That's all I have to say.
Let me ask you a question, Lovely, though. What do you say to black folks in Memphis? Memphis is a 65% black city, and now that district is being split up, and now it's probably going to be a Republican that's going to represent Memphis, where Memphis is the vast majority of those black folks that live there, vote Democrat. What do you think about that? And then I want to go to Liberty.
You know what? And if they're splitting up the district and trying to make it Republican, what does their Republican have to offer that district? Are they going to be voting in your best interest? Are you telling them what you want? Put pressure on them. It's all right to be Republican. What you stand for, even though you're in my district, you can get my vote. You got to go in there representing my community, what we need. So I'm just. I've checked out racially on the thing.
Okay. Let me go to Liberty. Carolina, I see your flag. Give me 1 second. Let me just get Liberty's first comment. Carolina, I'll come to you, then Jonathan. Liberty, how do you feel about what happened with the Virginia Supreme Court? What are your thoughts?
Well, according to the ruling, it was against the state's constitution. So what I'm hearing is a lot of frustration because people voted a certain way. Mm-hmm. They should be able to vote that way because basically we're a democracy and all this. Well, we're not a democracy, and you're seeing it right in front of your eyes. We're a constitutional federalist republic. The people cannot vote based purely on what they want. They have to follow the law. They have to follow the Constitution. Part of the ruling, too, the judge cited that it went from basically a nonpartisan, basically evenly split map 6-5 to a highly partisan 10-1. So that part's legal because you can gerrymander on the basis of partisanship, but you have to follow the state's constitution. So, sorry, we're not a democracy. You can't just vote in violation of your own state's constitution. So the ruling made sense. We all knew it was coming, and that's what it is. You briefly mentioned Memphis.
Yes.
Which is, again, from my understanding, was racially gerrymandered, which is unconstitutional based on the Louisiana case, because if you draw lines on the basis of race, that's racial discrimination. So, ironically, the Republican is a black woman. It's been losing to the white man.
Correct. I mean, that part is correct. I don't know if I agree with the first part, but
since 2018. Well, I mean, if you're drawing, how do you disagree with if you're drawing?
Well, because the Voting Rights Act, what the Voting Rights Act said is that back in 1965, they were concerned about representation in minority districts, and so they did allow for race to be utilized as a factor to draw up districts back then. And so what you're saying is, yes, the Supreme Court struck down that provision in the Voting Rights Act, but it was legal up until the Supreme Court,
Yes. I agree with you. It was seen as legal.
Appreciate you, fam. Go ahead.
Yes, I agree with you. It was seen as legal, and that's why Louisiana, Tennessee, Alabama, and a lot of these red states have majority minority districts because they were forced to draw on the basis of race, which is racial discrimination. So if we really want to be a colorblind society and we both recognize that racial discrimination is wrong, then you can't do it on the basis of race. I think to me, it's a very simple concept. I don't know what's complicated about it other than that we've accepted this idea that racial discrimination is okay as long as it's done a certain way.
Mr. Bill, thank you, bro. Thank you. Appreciate you, fam.
But that's kind of that's my take on it.
Okay, let me. So I think Carolina wants to address something you said, Liberty.
My
and
God.
Then we'll go to Jonathan. I promise you time forever, and then we'll bounce around a little bit. I'll get everybody in. Go ahead, Carolina. Get that.
My God. Also, thankfully, she ran because she didn't understand what she was saying. I'm just glad she's gone. So we'll leave that. However, this one, oh my God, a colorblind society. That is absolute hilarity.
Appreciate you, fam. Go ahead.
That is extreme hilarity. When white people are ready for it to be a colorblind society, then we can all have a beautiful conversation about that. But y'all ain't ready for that. Y'all ain't ready for that. And when y'all are ready to get rid of racism, then let's have a conversation. However, it's not racial discrimination to correct what racial discrimination has done. Does anybody hear how asinine that sounds to say out loud? The Voting Rights Act was put in place because of racial discrimination, specifically against Black voters, and then also Indigenous and other voters. And so we benefited from, as an Indigenous woman, my community benefited from the work that Black civil rights leaders did, right? They were already racially discriminating, preventing us from having equal access to voting rights and equal representation in our districts. So the Voting Rights Act corrected that. So to say that the correction in itself is racial discrimination is absolutely insane. And it's actually racist to say that, to insinuate that. When we are correcting issues that white supremacy has done and has allowed for, that is not racial discrimination. So what happened in Tennessee is absolutely racial discrimination. What happened in Louisiana, that was different. That was stating that they needed to have equal representation based on the demographics in that state. So with them making up a third of the population, then that should be reflective in their representation in Congress. And so that was allowing for that. This is going backwards. So also, it's not unconstitutional. We just saw this. What it is in Virginia is unprecedented. Unprecedented does not equal unconstitutional. It does not violate the Constitution. They are doing this on a technicality. So, you know what? You might want to bring other people in, but that was the dumbest shit I have ever heard in my life.
Can I respond to that? Because
you threw out a lot of stuff. Quick minute to respond, then I want to go to Jonathan. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So if we both agree that so it didn't correct racial discrimination. That's your first assumption that you made, and it's wrong. Because what it allowed to do was racial discrimination based on gerrymandering. So you don't fix racial discrimination with racial discrimination. You fix it and say this racial discrimination is wrong because you discriminate on the basis of race is racist. So you stop doing racist things. And you don't say, well, we correct it with more racism. That's like this faulty ideology, again, that a lot of people have bought into. And then going back to Virginia, it was unconstitutional because according to their constitution, you have to follow certain procedures in order to draw district maps. They didn't follow those certain procedures, which is why the Supreme Court threw it out on the basis that it was against the state's constitution.
Okay, let me do this. I saw your flag, Carolyn. Give me a second. Let me just let Jonathan come in. I've been promising time forever. Okay. And then I got you. And then I do want to let the three new people come in too. Jermaine, I'll try to get you in. Okay. All right. Let me go to Jonathan. Go ahead, Jonathan.
What's up, man? So I just wanted to put this out there real quick and read this. So the Constitution of Virginia is amended through a strict legislative process requiring approved by two consecutive General Assembly sessions with an intervening House of Delegates election, followed by voter ratification and a referendum. Amendments must pass a majority vote in both houses twice before being placed on a ballot. So, therefore, what they did in Virginia is absolutely unconstitutional. Now, when they went ahead and they let it go through, because there was nothing violated just yet. It was when they put it on the ballot and put it in front of Virginians, was it considered unconstitutional? Then a law was broken. Then they could bring it into court. And now they have ruled that it was unconstitutional and it went against the Virginia Constitution. That is what it is. And for the person who sat there and said that it's going to federal court, that it's going to be looked at, a state court ruling generally cannot go to federal court if it only involves state law issues. Federal courts cannot second guess state Supreme Courts on matters of state law, as state courts are the final arbiter of their own laws and constitutions. It cannot go in front of federal law because it was a state problem, not federal. It doesn't have to deal with federal constitutions. It has to deal with state constitutions. And the dumbass Democrats in Virginia should know that. But they don't. They refuse to look at it.
Okay. All right. Let me
actually, but
it's not a lie. Go look it up. I just looked it up. Do you want me to see
because
the source?
it's tied to the larger federal issue.
It's not federal. There's no federal issue. There's a
be quiet. Can I respond to the other racist?
Okay. Let me let real quick.
Racist,
then I gotta get Jermaine.
Sorry.
Go away. Okay.
Absolutely
So
not.
real quick, Liberty. Yeah, I'm not engaging with you at this point. Because it is tied to the larger federal issue. But anyway,
it's not.
It is. Be quiet. So
No, it's
Liberty, be quiet. Liberty, do you know what
You're a
racism is?
narcissist.
Can you please be quiet? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's let Carolina come in, and then I want to let Jermaine get an opportunity. Go ahead.
Thank you, Liberty. Do you know what racism is?
Yep, I sure do.
Can you tell me what racism is?
Yeah, since we're having a quiz and school time, we should actually go over it. So basically, racism is the belief that one race is better than the other. And
Let's stop right there. Because that's also false. That's this is what I love. This is what I love. No, thank you. Thank you for responding.
Hold on, real quick.
So
real quick, you guys.
You're quizzing me, and you don't know what racism is.
Okay, hold on, everybody. Because I know we got some new people, we got some old people. Okay. So Carolina asked a question. Liberty, you answered it. Let's let Carolina finish. Liberty, I'm gonna come to you just so she engages right after she gets done. Okay.
Thank you so much. I love when people love when people who are not educated in a particular topic try to go against somebody who actually this is my specialty. So hi, I'm a cultural anthropologist and a critical race scholar, also a woman of color. So no, that's not what racism is because the dictionary definition does not define racism. That is it cannot describe its functionality. So who created race? Who created the concept of race? Can the colonizer go back on mute? That would be great. So who created the concept of, can we mute him? Because that's really annoying. Thank you. So who created the concept of race? That would be white people, specifically in the 15th century. Why did they create the system of race and the social construct of it? One, primarily to uphold whiteness, to subjugate Africans, and then later to subjugate indigenous people of the Americas. That was the entire purpose of the construction of race. The ism on the end of race implies a system. So it is a system that was created for white people to benefit white people, and therefore black and brown people cannot be racist. So to say that this action is racism, to correct racism, is a logical fallacy. That is not possible. I know you guys desperately want to be victims, but that is not what's happening here. Equality and equity for marginalized people who have been subjugated under a system of white supremacy, which has been on this land since your ancestors invaded, and do not belong here. Since you invaded, we have been subjugated under that system. We are never going to be able to benefit from it. So when laws are put in place to correct what racism and white supremacy has done, that is not racism. I realize that equality and equity for people who don't look like you seems like a threat to you because it means that you can no longer wield this power just unchecked for all of eternity. But that is not what racism is. So when we're having a conversation, we need to stick to the actual facts and not your colonizer feelings on the topic. That is not racism.
All right, Liberty, if you want a minute to respond, I'll give it to you. Then I am going to Jermaine kind of no matter what. I promising Jermaine 10 forever. Go ahead, Liberty.
So her definition based on a racist critical race theory doesn't surprise me. She thinks it's based on systems when in order to be racist, you have to believe fundamentally that one race is superior than another, and then you go about discriminating on the basis of race because you're a racist. Anybody can believe anything. Like if you don't believe that part, then you're a racist because you say only white people can believe certain things. Even if in your own definition it's based on systems, well, black people can own systems, white people could own systems, Asians can own systems. A system could be a lot of different things. We had a black president. Black people own businesses. They can racially discriminate on that basis that they control the system. So even under your own definition, anyone can be racist. It's the wrong definition. It comes from a critical race theory that doesn't understand what racism is and tries to make it only a white thing. So again, you have to have a fundamental understanding of what racism is. And then to say that you're an expert on race when you come from critical race theory, which is a Marxist, racist ideology, and you perpetuated it and say that, white people are bad and only white people can be racist. You are touting at the same time racism while claiming not to be a racist. It's
He
Okay,
just
fucking
put it that
wild.
way.
y'all time Liberty. Y'all time Liberty. So I gotta go to Jermaine. I promise you, Jermaine time forever. Let me let Jermaine come in. Go ahead, Jermaine. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
there's a lot of misinformation. First off, I do not like these libertarian ass liberty for all kind of people because they love to throw in like law and constitution and what's constitution and whatnot. Smitty, in Louisiana, there's only been four black congressmen elected since Reconstruction. Four. Smitty, four. If we look at this country from the G side of indigenous people to slavery to crushing of Reconstruction to Jim Crow, war on drugs, mass incarceration, gerrymandering, we've seen what the GOP is trying to do is rebirth the Jim Crow, because in reality it never left. The Jim Crow never left. It never left the South. It just rebranded into many different policies. And so, and that's the and this is the thing when it comes to the GOP or these right wingers, they refuse to set reality because it's their whiteness. Their whiteness is narcissism. Their white supremacy is narcissism. It's narcissism. So to sit here on a panel and to try to call an indigenous woman racist, it's pretty mind-boggling. But because, man, and I've been seeing this rise lately of white people using the word racism or that's racist. Like, to me, that's a reactionary standpoint because we've seen people push back against racism. And what does the right wingers do? They try to flip it and say, well, no, you're racist. Well, that's racist. Or you're racist to saying that to black people. So I've been noticing this, especially like the past few years, mainly since Orange Man's administration, right? So they are trying to reverse this so-called racism thing and to push upon people of color. People of color who has no power, no control over to be racist. Again, we didn't invent this shit. We didn't invent any of this. We won't have to have civil rights laws. We will not have fair housing acts, right? We will not have like credit act like policies, right? If it wasn't for racism. All these laws that we have protected in today is because to push back against racism that white people literally invented. Like we wouldn't be having this conversation, Smitty, if it was not for racism, capitalism, colonialism. And they refuse to accept that reality. So I find that pretty mind-boggling. So ask them this: why are these laws in place now? Right? Why is Violence Against Women Acts is a law now? Why do we have these policies? It's because of racism and the things we're subjugated against that we cannot do. So that's the thing. They talk about all these what's unconstitutional and what's not, but they refuse to accept the reality of like, why do we have these laws and why they're gerrymandering? Because every time we're trying to make some gains, Smitty, what happens? They come in and they try to strip those away. This has been going on since the crushing of Reconstruction.
Okay. Thank you, Jermaine. All right, let's go to Neil. Neil, your thoughts on what you've heard. And then Liberty, I'll give you some time to respond because I have a feeling that folks are going to respond to you. So I'll give you some time. And then I do want to get the new panelists in, Manuel, Fang, John, and Jordan's mom as well. Go ahead, Neil.
Sure, and I'll say my piece and then I'll hop down.
Okay.
So a couple things. First, appreciate Jermaine and Carolina speaking facts. As they tend to do. Obviously, Smitty, appreciate you for holding this space as you do every day, because this conversation is necessary. For me, again, looking at again, student of history, understand where my people are from, understand how I got here, and obviously, I understand the structures at play, right? I live in a state that was recently redistricted. I live in a state that we are trying to redistrict again, and our state Senate President Bill Ferguson. I live in Maryland. Stopped Wes Moore and the Senate and House Democrats from redistricting. Some would argue that redistricting was in response to Virginia and Texas. Mm-hmm. And folks would argue but again, as soon as the decision was reversed, the Calais v. Louisiana decision dropped. Mm-hmm. We saw Alabama we saw Louisiana, we saw Texas, we saw Georgia, we saw Mississippi, all simultaneously, all whom's those states, state Senate have control. Oh, and Florida, I'm sorry. All at this simultaneously start the process to do redistricting. All simultaneously, right? Some it took faster than others. So for folks to say, oh, this is a tete-a-tete, this is retaliation for, democratic redistricting in the past, as Jermaine just said, this is in response. This is literally historic changes since Reconstruction. For those, again, I urge folks to check out great resources like blackpowerwarroom.com. They have some tremendous resources, not just on the recent Supreme Court case, but also a ton of content and a ton of resources related to everything happening in redistricting all over the country. Again, that's blackpowerwarroom.com.
Thank you, Nick.
Sure. This fight is going to be longstanding. Virginia's is right now, right? I do support what because you haven't even touched on the fact that while the Virginia Supreme Court came down on this decision yesterday, literally less than 24 hours before, Senator Luis Lucas was under threat from the FBI for no reason, right? Because all she did was curse at President Trump. And literally there has been, and literally, so if you want to talk about retaliation, right? I'm looking at State Senator Luis Lucas, who has been a stalwart advocate for not just the people that she represents in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but the entire Commonwealth. And she has been constantly, prior to the Spanberger administration, she was constantly a thorn in the side, a thorn in the side of Governor Youngkin. For those who work in Virginia politics know this, right? They understand what kind of powerhouse Senator Lucas is, State Senator Lucas is. And, I'll just land here. Some folks will let their gas go to $15 to circumvent Black political power.
Ooh, thank you. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that, Neil. I'm gonna let you go, bro. Thank you for coming up. Feel free to request anytime. All right, so we're gonna let Neil go. Liberty, do you want to respond to that? To Jermaine's point around, civil rights leaders fought for these Voting Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, Civil Rights Act. Do you feel like that puts you at odds with Martin Luther King or John Lewis or Ralph Abernathy or Fresh Ellsworth, those folks that fought for these Voting Rights Acts? What do you think?
No, I think if we look at like Martin Luther King, that we should be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin, again, is going to the idea of being a colorblind society, right? We're obviously not one yet. There's always going to be racists out there, always, right? But what we can certainly do is eliminate it from our laws and our institutions the best we can to become a more perfect union. If you look at what the Supreme Court did, they simply just said you cannot draw district lines on the basis of race because that it is inherently racial discrimination. So it's an obvious thing that shouldn't be allowed to occur. Now this doesn't
eat your soup first.
This doesn't end.
Also, I heard your iPad. It's in here somewhere.
Hold on,
I heard it.
Someone went off mute.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was going to say this. So what this doesn't do is obviously it doesn't end gerrymandering. Gerrymandering, unfortunately, is completely legal as long as you do it based on the basis of partisanship, right? So blue states are extremely gerrymandered. There's a lot of blue states that are like 40% Republican that have zero Republican representation. They're already extremely gerrymandered. So now that this law has come down and these red states have been forced to draw district lines on the basis of race, well, guess what? You have Republican governors that are going to gerrymander on the basis of partisanship to make their states more red because that's what politicians do. So
go ahead.
again,
And I got a question for you, Liberty.
this does not fix gerrymandering at all. It's just going to allow states to become as gerrymandered as a lot of these blue states already are.
So let's just do this real quick exercise. The color of the skin, content of the character. Do you know the quote from the I Have a Dream speech when he said that? Do you know what he said?
It's something along the lines of people should be, judged on the content of the character, not the color of their skin. And that's what I agree with. I think we should be a
That's all the
meritocracy.
party remembers.
I got you.
Okay, so regardless of what the rest of the quote is, you can say that's fine.
But the quote's
But
important.
that's the ideal, just to be clear, that's the ideal that I uphold, that we should be colorblind, we should not be racist, we should judge people on the basis of their merit. That's what I believe that you can tell.
I got you there, Reed. So that's just let me just help you out a little bit, right? So what he said is, he said, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So he was specifically concerned about Black people being judged for the color of their skin and not the content of their character. He wasn't concerned about white people because white people never had that problem. So I think that's important, right? Because that undergirds, right, his support and the support of other civil rights leaders of the Voting Rights Act in order to correct what Carolina was saying. I understand you may have a different opinion, which is why I asked you, do you feel like your opinion and your thoughts, right, are in conflict with what Martin Luther King and other things thought? But go ahead.
If the idea is we only become colorblind towards Black people, then that's nonsense. You need to, if you're really going to be colorblind, you're colorblind against everyone, and you don't discriminate on anyone on the basis of race. So this idea that somehow reverse discrimination is not discrimination is nonsense. It's just completely nonsense. And we need to get it out of our culture. We need to get out of our laws and to become a more perfect union, like this racist nonsense that it's on both sides, the far left, the CRT nonsense, the far right, the groypers. They're both.
What is CRT?
Okay, so real quick, let me
Jermaine, let me ask him that, please.
Hold on, y'all. All right. I'm gonna stay in my moderator role. I tried. I'm gonna stay moderating. Okay, I have a feeling the panelists are gonna come in and say what I was gonna say. So we're gonna let Manuel go. Go ahead, Manuel. Your thoughts. Go ahead.
Hey, so I originally requested it for a while back because I wanted to touch on your background. I'm going to touch on it briefly because I think this is a bigger conversation when we're talking about Tennessee, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, all of the southern states. But really quick, the Virginia Supreme Court ruling, I'm pretty sure Carolina has already brought it up. It is a federal issue. It will become a federal issue because the state Supreme Court brought up a federal issue. They are talking about, quote, election day, which is defined by the Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court. So when we look at the way that the Virginia State Supreme Court, the argument that they brought up and the dissent that was brought up as well. This is 100%. This is a very good chance that it's going to go to the Supreme Court. While I do not have faith that the Supreme Court is going to rule on the side of the Virginia voters, I do want to say this one thing about Virginia. Virginia overwhelmingly voted for Spanberger. And I apologize if I'm not saying her last name correctly, they also voted for her referendum overwhelmingly in the same districts. I think in the terms of the referendum, there was about 1 or 2 districts that flipped red in terms of that referendum. They still voted for her. Her policies, her referendum. Virginia wants to go blue. Virginia doesn't want to just go blue. They want to go progressive plus. So I am not, this may be a bump in the road, but I am not convinced that the Republican Party is going to win anything from this. This is a small little victory for people who cannot read the Constitution, who cannot interpret the Constitution correctly. Okay. That being said, going into Tennessee, the state that I am unfortunately living in currently, and looking at, someone said that Shelby County was split into 2 districts. Nope, it was split into 3. That is Memphis. Someone said that it was gerrymandered by racial means. Nope, because the Republican Party is the one that gerrymandered Tennessee back in 2022, and it was approved in 2023. That map was a map that was created by Republicans. That map was also created back in prior to was it 2010, 2012, when we only had two districts that were Democratic in Tennessee, 2 back in 2010, 2012. So no,
this racial gerrymandering of Memphis, take that up with the Republican Party, because they're the ones who packed black voters into Memphis, if that is what you believe. And Shelby County, demographically, 65% black. Memphis, Shelby County is, I believe, 65, where Memphis is 55%. I could have those two swapped around.
I think
on
Memphis
accident.
is 65% black.
Okay.
Yep.
The point is that the county and the district is overwhelmingly black in that area. It is not only is it the largest black district in Tennessee, is one of the largest black districts, counties and districts in the United States. So no, when we talk about racial gerrymandering, that is not what happened prior to this removal of Shelby County. Stretching Shelby County all the way to Franklin, Tennessee, not the district, but the city.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. I agree with you.
So I'll land my plane. I'll land my plane there.
That's very wild. All right, thank you, man. Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate you staying patient with me. We're going to go to John, Jordan's mom, Noah, and we'll get Sarah in. And then again, Liberty, if people respond to you, I'll let you respond back to them. John, your thoughts. What do you think about this Virginia Supreme Court referendum? What do you think about what's going on in Tennessee, Louisiana, Florida? I mean, there's so many states we could talk about. But what do you think about what's going on? Talk to me, bro.
So a couple of different things. I wanted to address the Liberty guy down there, because I have a feeling that we kind of rock with the same skin color. And so I just would like to say that definitions truly, truly matter. And while words can be synonyms, that does not make them identical to each other. Can black and brown people be prejudiced or bigoted? Yes. Can they be racist? Absolutely not. It is a system built for over 700 years. It was built in the 1400s. Just because we had a black president does not mean that the system was destroyed. It just means Americans got their shit together for one term and voted, or two terms, and voted the guy in. That didn't change the system. The system still exists. And it will continue to exist as long as people like you go around with this fantasy of seeing the world colorblind. That doesn't, bro. The only people that are colorblind are medically colorblind. You're not. Grow the fuck up. As far as the voting, I'm disgusted by it. And Virginia was a response. I love how the right always likes to attack the left for responding to the things that the right does. Florida, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, and Utah all redrew their maps in 2024 because they knew they were going to get their asses handed to them. That's how they took the House back. Trump has been stating for over a year that if they do not win this election in November, a lot of people are going to jail. So Texas, who already redrew their maps in 2024, are trying to redraw them again for 2026 and did so. And so, yes, California responded and Virginia responded. California didn't get shut down, luckily. Virginia did. I have a real problem with it. They're going with a long shot to the Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court is backed by, it's a conservative court. It will not get past the Supreme Court. Other blue states need to acquiesce now. I don't think any state should be doing this, but unfortunately, we don't have a choice.
Okay, thank you, John. Liberty, if you want to do a quick response, and we'll go to Jordan's mom, Noah, Sarah, and then Jermaine. I'm going to come down to you.
Hey, Smitty, real quick. When it does come back to me, I don't want to skip anyone. Please remind me to attack that whole systems comment, because that was bullshit. Just remind me. Thank you very much.
Got you, fam. All right. Go ahead, Liberty, if you'd like to respond.
So again, the CRT thing that teaches, I would say, indoctrinates people that it's just a system. So systems can have, obviously, systemic racism in it, embedded in laws and stuff like that. But even if you break it down from there, why are they creating the laws to be racist? Because the people who are writing the laws are racist because they believe one race is better than another. So it fundamentally goes down to the basis that racism is a belief that one race is better than another. Now, if we all believe here that systemic racism is bad, then we should get rid of systemic racist laws, which is what the Supreme Court did, that says you cannot draw district lines on the basis of race. Now, when I'm talking about a colorblind society, that's what I mean. We should eliminate as much as we can any laws that discriminate on the basis of race. We should be a meritocracy. We are a capitalist country because privatized wealth is what gives the individual power, right? We don't want power to belong to the federal government and tell us what we can own, how much, and tax us into oblivion. Because we fundamentally get stripped of our own individual wealth, right? So privatized wealth is inherently tied to freedom, right? So this CRT is very closely tied to communism, and that's why these two ideas meld, because really why CRT is flooded in our schools is to indoctrinate the people of the United States fundamentally no longer believe in the United States of America. They can usher in the radical ideology to dismantle the United States.
Radical left.
That's what it is.
Your time. So real quick, I think I saw Noah's flag first. So Noah, go ahead.
No, but I thought it was my turn. I waited.
It is.
They can go before me. They can go before me.
Okay, all right. If George, if you want to address, go ahead. It was your turn, but I saw a couple flags.
Right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't need their help. No disrespect, but I'd rather do this myself. So I don't understand the way that people like Mr. Liberty have their own dictionary. I wish that you would let us know, which version you use so that we could read it too. Because I don't know what you think critical race theory is. Critical race theory is simply an academic framework. It is used in legal studies, advanced legal studies, in doctoral programs, in law school, and things of that nature. It is used to identify the fact that racism is not an individual issue, that racism can be a component of laws. It can be a component of systems such that it disenfranchises people using legal terms, legal framework. That's the difference. It argues that race is just a social construct that people use to maintain power, to hold on to it. That is not, I don't understand how you can just make up another definition of it. What critical race theory also says is it's really a study that delves into deeply how a law that seems neutral really has an adverse effect on a particular group of people. For example, we have the Virginia decision. The people of Virginia have the right to vote and say what they would how they would like their precincts to be drawn. They have that right. They voted and they agreed. And the Supreme Court has decided that the state Supreme Court is going to overturn the will of the people. Funny how in the states where the people didn't vote to overturn and have the precincts redrawn, nobody's overturning anything. You're allowing all those to go. I think that what people like you have to do is you have to take a deep dive and understand the critical race theory. It also outlines how colorblindness itself, it challenges that idea that you can say you're not colorblind, so therefore all of your laws are fair, when that's not true. You can make a law that disparages the poor. That law will disproportionately affect Black people because Black people are disproportionately poor. It is a workaround. And all critical race theory does is it says when you're doing law, to be an effective lawyer, you have to examine how these laws work, how they affect people, so you can mount a wonderful defense. It is not used in secondary school. It's not used in kindergarten. It is not taught in any of those places. You all are liars. You're a liar. The way that you try to make it seem like it's an element of what we teach children, it is not. It is taught in an advanced legal environment, sir. Period. Clearly, you're not aware. The same way you all are the people who talk about DEI is a hiring practice. It is not. DEI is a diversity idea. It means that when a company has people from different places all over the world, they want those people to be comfortable in the work environment. So they teach other members of the team about that person and the culture and to be tolerant of the differences. It is something that is applied once a person works for a company. It is not a hiring practice. But you all, in that special dictionary that you paper people use, you twist everything into something that it doesn't mean. And then you say it over and over and over to your uneducated electorate, and they repeat it.
Thank you, George, Mom. All right. Yeah, I appreciate that. Very thorough response. Let me go to Noah, and then we'll go to Sarah, And then Liberty, I'll let you come back in if you want, and then we'll go to Jermaine. Please continue to tap the screen. We're only at 70,000 likes. Come on, y'all. We got 500 people in here. Let's tap. Let's get to at least 85K in the next 10 minutes if we can. Please engage with the live whichever way that you would like, but please engage with the live, y'all. This is an incredibly important decision that will have ramifications not only for you, but for your parents, your children, your siblings, friends. Noah, your thoughts?
What's good, Unc?
Good to see you, bro.
Likewise. I got a few things. I'll try to keep it short though. The first one is to quote Super Solid on here. Racism has like a very specific function, and that function cannot be co-opted by Black people. There has never been a time in history, right, where Black people have had the monopoly on violence in such a way that they can enforce race in the way that white people have enforced race since its inception. So this idea that Liberty is trying to propose about reverse racism is really ridiculous. The other thing, and Jordan's mom kind of got it, and I'm grateful that she went through what critical race theory is, because I was about to ask you, Liberty, if you knew who Derek Bell was, but I assume that you don't, because I don't think you know what critical race theory is. But like, this is something that Du Bois talked about a long time ago. He calls this witch words. And so basically these people come up with things like communist, critical race theory, woke, Negrophile, all these various words that are used to criminalize what is perceived to be radical, right? So that's exactly what he's engaging in. I did want him to answer if he knows who Derek Bell is and if he knows what Marxism is, or to like give me his brief sort of summary on what Marxism is, so I can understand the connection between critical race theory and Marxism.
Go ahead, Liberty, if you'd like to respond. Go ahead.
So basically, I'll talk about CRT first. Basically, what I said CRT is what the person who came after me said the same thing, just in different words. So, and then apparently I don't know what it is, even though she explained it basically the same way, that it's a framework saying that racism can be tied into our legal systems. It can be, but that's not the definition of racism. Racism, like the entire reason why people would write these laws is because they believe one race is better than another. That's what makes you a racist. That your ability to discriminate and enforce it could be embedded into the legal systems. That's a separate argument, right? And again, if we all agree that that should be eliminated from our laws, then we should eliminate it from our laws. There's no such thing really as reverse discrimination. There's just discrimination. And if you're doing on a basis of race, that is racial discrimination. It doesn't matter who is doing it. It doesn't matter.
Can I ask you a clarifying question? Do you think that decolonization is racist? Like, do you think, for instance, when Haitians massacred white French slave owners, that they were being racist?
When they, I believe that every country on planet Earth has been basically formed and taken over through war. Is taken over through war.
Answer the question.
So, I don't know. Reverse colonization. Reverse colonization. What do you mean? Like France should give up their land? Like the United States should give up their land?
Reverse colonization. I said decolonization. And
okay,
I gave you an example.
So decolonize certain colonies that were taken over. Is that what you're saying?
Through violence, yes. Through violence on a specific racial group that is doing the colonizing.
I don't think that the United States should give up the United States because we took it over from.
You answer the damn question.
Hold on.
So if you don't believe in the United States of America and its legitimacy, that's why we're on separate sides, right? Because you fundamentally, along with your CRT, fundamentally disbelieve in the United States of America. That is the whole purpose of CRT, is to get you to no longer believe in the legitimacy of the United States, because they try to say that racism is embedded in the laws and in our constitutions, and only white people can be racist. So therefore, tear it down. Tear it down. That is what you are spewing. You are
Liberty, I'm gonna help you out.
Proving my point. You are an embodiment of the point that I am proving.
Liberty, I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna redirect this, right? So the funny thing about critical race theory is actually a lot of the people within critical race theory are not people that I find myself politically aligned with, because a lot of it is based in legalistic reforms. It's based in sort of a belief in liberalism, actually the opposite of what you're describing. It's not a belief that America is fundamentally irredeemable. There are actually a lot of people who are in critical race theory who believe the opposite, which is why they do believe in reform to the law. Of course, you have people like Derek Bell who thought that racism within the United States was permanent unless, capitalism and all these things are upended, right? He did believe that the United States is fundamentally built on racial discrimination. And so like legalistic reforms, the law offers no solution, was his conclusion. But I really just want an answer to like the Haitian example in particular, because I think that'll be easier for us to work with in the United States. I didn't bring up the United States.
Go, Liberty, if you'd like to respond.
It sounded like you were asking me like decolonization. I don't know about the Haitian example that you're giving. So if you want to give a specific Haitian example and ask,
I gave you the example.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So
the
basically, France took over
Haitian.
a part of the Haitians. Go ahead.
Yeah, so France, the English, the Spanish colonized Haiti, right? Saint-Domingue. And there was revolutionaries who were, enslaved Haitians who were resisting slavery, and they freed themselves through the massacring of the white French slave owners that were on the island.
Okay.
Do you think that's racist?
No,
According to what you said earlier, that
so
that
based
would be
on how you
racist.
described it, that they were basically enslaved by Europeans, is what you said, and then they fought back for their freedom. Is basically what you're saying.
Yep.
So what's wrong with that? I would fight for my freedom too.
Okay, so how is this not analogous to what you were just condemning earlier when you were saying that like we should not be fighting racial discrimination with what you call racial discrimination?
Right. So you don't you don't
this is
fight
not reconcilable what you said.
It is because you don't fix racial discrimination with racial discrimination.
How do you get to tell us how we fix it? That's your problem.
I'm trying to tell you, you do it by getting rid of the laws.
It's not your choice to make, sir.
What's not my choice?
So real quick.
That's not my choice.
Well, that was going to be what I was going to say. So Liberty, do you think that as men that we have a better idea about misogyny than women? I'm sure you're going to say no, right? I hope you're going to say no.
No, I mean, no. Like misogyny is misogyny. It doesn't matter who says it or whatever. It is what it is, right?
Right. But what I'm saying, do you think we have a better understanding of what it means to be a misogynist than women?
I mean, I don't know. I think it depends on the individual.
Smitty, you gave him too much credit. Goddamn.
It depends on.
Wait a minute.
I wasn't expecting that answer. Is that you're trying to get me to think along the lines of groupthink, like men.
No, I just feel like that's really obvious.
Women think this certain way, and so men have a better idea than women. Like it's nonsense. Like certain individuals think a certain way.
No,
so I always try to break it down to the individual. So when you ask me to think along groupthink, I don't know how to answer your question because I have a fundamentally different worldview than you do.
No, but that's like saying that an engineer, right, or engineers would have a better idea on how to build a bridge than me as an executive of a financial services company. Of course, an engineer will have a better idea on how to build a bridge. And of course, women are going to have a better idea about misogyny.
No, that's a very bad analogy.
You think as men but hold on, this is important. Hold on. You think as men we have an equal idea of what it means to be a misogynist than women? Come on, Liberty, you can't think that.
I think your analogy is horrible because if you're an engineer, you go to school to learn engineering, and so you would know more about engineering because you went to school for it. I never went to school.
Hold on, y'all. Hold on.
Women never went to school for misogyny.
Hold on, everybody. I can't hear. Hold on. So you're right. An engineer goes to school to learn how to be an engineer, right? And as women go through life experiencing misogyny, which is why they end up in learning and understanding how to navigate it better than us men who don't. So you just actually, when you said that, you proved my point right. It's the same thing. They don't go to school, but they have life school, right? That they go through and learn and how to navigate, how to deal with the system. I really don't know what the point of this is. What's
your point about bringing up misogyny?
So to Jordan's, hold on, y'all, real quick, and then I'm gonna let y'all come back in. To Jordan's mom's point, don't you think the people that are impacted by racism have a better idea on how to eliminate it than the folks who don't?
Not
Right? If I
necessarily.
spend,
No, I don't. No, I don't believe
you
that.
don't.
No, because if you're saying I'm
Okay, go
impacted
ahead.
by racism and therefore we need to make more laws on the basis of racism.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, but if
Liberty,
that's
you're not listening to what I'm saying. Liberty,
no, just because
Liberty.
no,
All
you
I'm saying,
don't.
listen,
No.
listen.
Uh-uh.
If there's a problem, hold on. If there's a problem, you're focused on 24 hours a day, right? And let's say the same problem, I don't even think about it, but once a week. Don't you think you're gonna have a better idea because you're focused on it 24 hours a day?
Yeah, maybe. The thing is if you come up with a
Liberty,
solution,
come on, man.
if you come up with a
you don't want to say
solution,
yes because you don't want to concede.
if you come up with a solution that allows for more racial discrimination, hey, in order to end racial discrimination, we need to allow for racial discrimination the other way. Then you fundamentally miss the point.
Okay,
You
so
don't understand
hold
the
on, y'all.
Yes, it
Listen,
is.
listen.
Yes, it is.
Y'all know I don't speak but 5 minutes. Let me have this conversation. Okay, so if you have pneumonia, Liberty, do you call the antibiotics that you get to fixing pneumonia?
Man, these hypothetical conversations are going to go
This is
nowhere.
not hypothetical.
This is stupid. This is
No,
stupid.
I'm asking you a question.
Either
If you have pneumonia,
a law
do you call the
allows for
antibiotics
racial
pneumonia
discrimination
too?
or it doesn't. Right? Either a law allows for racial discrimination or it doesn't. That's it.
So
This is not hard.
Okay, I tried, y'all. I tried.
These
All right, let me go.
hypotheticals.
Let me hold on.
Smitty.
Hold on. Let me bring it back. All right, I tried. Let me go to
Stupid
Sarah. Go ahead, Sarah.
conversation.
Go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead, Sarah. Sarah's turn. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I just can you still hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. I hear
Okay,
you.
thanks. Sorry, I plugged in my headphones and I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, well, okay, so a couple things. One, the eye, I put in the comments, like the eye cannot perceive itself. And I feel like we're running into this wall with Liberty of like, he can't see. It's with like most YT people, right? We don't see our privilege because it's designed that way. And so I feel like Smitty really was trying to engage in good faith with you. The analogies he was making aren't stupid. They're designed to make you try to think about it in a slightly different way. And that's all. So it's like he's not trying to insult you. He was genuinely trying to engage with you as Smitty does, because Smitty's awesome. So that's point one. I've been wanting to talk though. I know most people on the panel already know about this, so I'm sorry, but I'm saying it for Liberty and anyone else who might not know. Darvo is a real thing. Have you heard of Darvo, Liberty? When I say that, do you know what it is?
Darvo, is that what you said?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what that is. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's an acronym, DARVO. It stands for Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Offender. And it's something that happens a lot. Like when I Googled it to make sure I had the words right, it said it's something that's frequently used by narcissists. And it's like a manipulation tactic, right? Or an emotional abuse tactic, honestly. But it's present, like deeply ingrained in our society and in our culture, in this way that, like, I'm seeing it right now, right? When you're saying that changing laws so that we try to create meaningfully equitable districts, that's like reverse racism, or that is racism, that is the reverse victim and offender. And so when you say, no, we need to be colorblind, no, we need to, like, yeah, I agree too. I lived most of my life calling myself colorblind before I realized and listened to people of color, to Black people who said, like, no, that's harmful, actually. Okay, so I guess I won't ramble on too long about Darvo. The last thing I wanted to talk about was de jure versus de facto, because I think that's really, really critical to this conversation. Do you know what de jure versus de facto, it's like a legal term. Do you know what that is?
No, go ahead and explain it.
Okay, so de jure is...
I love you, Mom.
I love you too, baby. De jure is the law. Yeah, give me just a minute. I'm almost done here. Okay, just a moment. I'll be right there. De jure is the law, the word of the law. De facto is like what happens in fact, right? Like what actually happens. And it's very similar to, like, in my mind, I kind of categorize it with like impact over intent. The impact of the law matters more to the people it affects than the word of the law. Because our court systems, our governmental systems can bend and twist and warp and add to and distort the meaning of the law. And I'm sure you and I would agree that they do it. We'd probably feel like they do it in different ways because we have different, kind of beliefs in a lot of respects, it seems. But that's really like, that's what the issue of this redistricting gets to, is like, no, we got rid of de jure racism at the end of Jim Crow. But the de facto racism is still like drowning us all in this country. So I'll put a book recommendation in the chat too. It's a really short, really enjoyable read. The way that it's a really good book and it's really short. So I'll put it in the chat. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you for coming up. Thank you. Let me go to Jermaine. I saw Jermaine, you have a final comment. We got some heavy hitters in the request. Okay. Jermaine, go ahead. Final comment. And then we'll continue the discussion. Go ahead, Jermaine.
Yeah. I wanted to, make my final comment. I know there's some amazing more people that want to get up in the panel, so I just want to end it with this. Hey, listen, Smitty, people like, and this is, I don't need a response from Liberty or anybody. You can't reason with these kind of people. I'm gonna just be honest. You can't, and we shouldn't. I mean, education is important, but these are the kind of people, no matter how much facts or how much evidence, even lived experience, like black man on a panel, indigenous woman on a panel, right? All different forms. But after all citing many evidence and facts, Smitty, he's still stuck in his ways. And that's the embodiment of white people and white supremacy in this country. No matter how much facts, evidence that is on display, or how much experience people who lived it and people who still experience, they are stuck in their ways because they are delusion from reality. They're intentionally delusion from reality. And I want to say this, Smitty, I'm going to close it out. I know it's going to be maybe unpopular, but I'm going to say it. Like, this system, this power structure never wanted black people to have voting rights. They never wanted black people at the table. They tried to distract it. Okay, I ain't gonna say distracted, but they tried to so-called like implement it with these legalities of the Voting Rights Act. When literally the amendment, we have the amendment for the right to vote. Like, you see how ridiculous that is? We have to have a Voting Rights Act to protect something that's already in the amendment. That goes to show you how ridiculous like this country is. Like, so like it's hard to think like the 64, 65 Voting Rights Act is like progress, maybe, because they don't honor it. They gut it. They do not honor it. Especially after the Civil War, like after Reconstruction, we had these many different amendments that benefited black people, that gained in kind of political power, right? But these amendments were never meant to be honored, Smitty. They were never meant to be honored. It evolved right into Jim Crow, apartheid system in the South, which spilled all across the North, right? So no matter where black people are located in this country, Smitty, racism will forever be prevalent, and we will forever go through this. Like, so what has happened with the Supreme Court was always going to happen, whether it's the Virginia Supreme Court or the American Supreme Court. The culture has never changed in this country. We're still in the institutions of slavery. And honestly, we will never move on from it. This country has been actively trying to return us back to the system of enslavement. And that's just facts. I feel like we misunderstood the motives. I'm going to get ready to close, Smitty. We misunderstood the motives of the end of enslavement. It was never really a humanitarian effort to see black people as human and equal, or women as equal, especially black women as equal. Like, it was about preserving the union and profit. Right? So again, Smitty, like, they never wanted us at the table. They never wanted us to progress. And honestly, Smitty, that's always been the goal of this country, right? They're not ready for freedom because they understand that because of the lack of education and freedom, knowing good and well, it was like a destiny for people to learn how to read. Like they were not ready for black people to have freedom. They still aren't. They aren't ready for black women to have freedom. They aren't ready for black people in general to have freedom. So I'm just close that down, Smitty. Like they want to return back to the institutions of enslavement. And that's just reality. From the gutting of labor laws, right? Like saying it's okay for 12 and 13-year-olds to have a job. Like that's illegal. Child slavery. So I'm gonna just end it with that, Smitty. I appreciate you for having me up, but I just had to be real. Like they want to return us back to the institution, but the institutions of slavery never left. They never left. They just formed in many different ways. Hey, Smitty, have a good weekend, my man.
All right, you too, my man. All right, yeah, thank you for coming up, bro. Appreciate you. All right, we're gonna let Jermaine go. I think that's all. Noah, you got a final comment, and then I want to work in some of the new panelists as well.
Yeah, not to derail it. I just had one last question for Liberty. I had asked it, but it kind of was ignored. Can you tell me what Marxism is?
Mr. Noah, before you ask him that, I apologize. I just want to say something and I'm happy to go. We get too far off task and it may not make sense. I want to go back to something that we talked about, critical race theory, and I want to bring up Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. I want to tie together my previous commentary when I talked about the importance of critical race theory, that it was an advanced subject that is taught in law. It is the tool that she used to explain the decision that was made by the Supreme Court. She analyzed the decision, and what she came up with was that the Supreme Court was violating its own rule. Did you know the Supreme Court has a rule that when a judgment comes down, it's 32 days before it's implemented? In this case of this law, they decided to make the law active presently, as soon as the decision came out. That is how Louisiana was able to go ahead and redo their map, because they didn't have to wait the 32 days. They were able to preempt the election that was already in progress and go ahead and enter this. She said that it violates also the spirit of the court itself, because it means that the court has now moved away from being on the sidelines and being a participant in the movement toward unfair practices. She used critical race theory to understand how a seemingly benign decision has an adverse effect on a particular group or racial ethnicity in America. That's how racial CRT is applied, sir. I don't know where you got that bootleg definition that you got. Maybe you got it from the holler somewhere, but I just wanted to make sure that I first of all gave that wonderful black woman her flowers. And then I want to say this: the reason that you all are offended and upset by critical race theory is because when wonderful black women understand how the process works, she was the lone person to dissent and explain it for everybody. She was also the lone voice to tell us that the treasury coffers were empty, because when they couldn't answer her questions about the tariff money, she recognized that the money had been stolen. You all don't like it when a black woman is on equal footing with you, because she will outperform you every time and expose all of your biases. With that, Smitty, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, fam.
Going about my day.
Always a pleasure to have you, fam. Thank you for coming up. All right, we're gonna let Jordan's mom go. All right, Liberty, if you'd like to respond, I'm still kind of stuck, Liberty, on the fact that we couldn't agree that women have a better idea how to navigate misogyny than men. I'm still kind of stuck on that one.
Wait.
But Liberty, I'll let you respond overall.
Can he respond to the Marxism question, please?
And the Marxism question as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to respond to a couple of things. I'll respond to the Marxism thing. So basically, Marxism is the political theory of Karl Marx. And he basically argued against capitalism, that is inherently exploitive. So therefore, the means of production needs to belong to the worker. However, in reality, what happens is that since it belongs to no one, it basically is government controlled. So it's government owning the means of production. And you have this very centralized form of government that inherently leads to corruption. And now the government tells you what you can own, how much, and you have no inherent human rights. So this is why capitalism is inherently tied to individual freedom, right? They're on opposite poles. One is individualistic. One looks at the entire collective and for the greater good. And this always leads to tyranny. Now, one thing I want to point out to this de facto thing is that what the Supreme Court said is that outcomes is not anything to do with racism. So this de facto thing that you can have de facto racism is false. It's not true. There's no such thing. Either you're a racist and that's based on the intent and that's in line with the Supreme Court decision that racism is in the intent, because if you're intentionally drawing on the basis of race, that is racial discrimination, that is racism. Now, the thing is that you can draw district lines that end up with the same outcome, but since you were drawing on the basis of partisanship or whatever it is, it's not racist because you do not draw it with the intent of racial discrimination. So racism is always in the intent. And if you're going to accuse someone of racism, you have to prove that they did it with the intent to discriminate on the basis of race.
Your time.
That's my claim.
All right, let me go to Noah. Let me go to Noah to address the Marxism piece. I saw a flag for that. Then I saw a flag for the de facto racism piece. So we'll figure out who wants to address that. All right. Oh, and Liberty has left. Now we're all liberated.
What a blessing. What a blessing. It always sends me when people are like, communism is no rights and capitalism is when you have human rights, as if capitalism didn't begin with slavery, as if slavery is not the primitive accumulation that made capitalism possible on a global stage. I wanted to ask him next what historical materialism was, but I don't think he's engaged with Marx. I think hella people, especially conservatives who invoke, again, they're just witch words. They're just pejoratives. They're slurs. It's just a way of saying, I hate radicalism. And so I'm just going to come up with like anything associated with blackness or communism. That's really what it is. That's why you got woke as a pejorative. That's how you got communist as a pejorative. It's all anti-black, anti-radical sentiments, one or the other, that we can use to marginalize people and ideologies that we don't like, even though we've never engaged with them. But
thank you, bro. I appreciate it. All right, let me get the new panelists worked in. Swan, are you ready? If not, I'll skip. I'm moving around a little bit.
I was gonna drop. I just wanted to end.
Real quick, man. Well, yeah, let me just get Swan in real quick, and I'll come to you. I'll come to you next. Okay. But I got you next.
I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Manuel. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, he dropped. The things I was going to bring up was really because he wanted to. I see a lot of white people and just like misinformed people bring up Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all these types of people, but they don't really get either they don't get the full quote and they take it out of context, or they just don't really believe and read the words, right? So what I was going to bring up was not really Martin Luther King, but his bodyguard, Reverend Benny Tucker. And his quote was, Dr. King, we don't need the Voting Rights Act because somebody is going to come along and change it. That was his fear. That was his fear. And it's been materialized for the last, 60 plus years. As we can see, that was his fear. And we see that. We didn't, and the idea of the context around that is we shouldn't have needed it because of what I forget the gentleman's name that was below me. Was it Jermaine?
Jermaine. Mm-hmm.
Jermaine said, which is that the 15th Amendment was ratified in 1870, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was. We should not have needed the VRA, but we did because white people do not follow the laws that they put on the books. They do not care about the systems that they put in place because those systems are forever and will be used against minority groups, black, brown, and indigenous people. So I was going to ask him if he even knew who Reverend Benny Tucker was, but since he's gone, I'll just end on again the previous statement that I made about Virginia Supreme Court. I have faith in. Despite this, I have faith in Virginia to still rise. May not be for the 2026 midterms, but I do have faith that the Virginia electorate will continue their blue wave that they have been overwhelmingly been doing in the voting. As far as the rest of the states that have been redistricting, I see tons of court cases coming out for them, and I don't see those maps being relevant for the 2026 election either. So I'm hoping, but this is a wild time, and I think that we all I think I can comfortably say that we all said that this was going to happen in 2024 after the election, and here we are. So. Yep. Thank you, Smitty. As always, I love your entire panel
although I do not follow everyone, I am always in your guys' spaces. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Well, appreciate you. All right. Take care. And we're going to go to Swan. Swan, your opening thought. What do you think about what's going on?
I think it's frustrating. I definitely think it's frustrating, but I also think I don't know how to explain this. This is kind of me taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture like I usually do, which is we've dealt with so much in less than 1.5 years, less than 2 years for under this administration. And I think the part that really worries me the most is that there are still a lot of people that have been silent up until this point about certain things, right? I also think that the frustrating thing about this is I don't know how to say this without getting canceled. I don't know how to say this without getting canceled. This country is not going to recognize our humanity. We've seen the work of our ancestors, right? From the minute we were taken off of boats, brought over here through the civil rights movement, become undone in less than 2 years. We've seen that become undone in less than 2 years. And I think the part that is frustrating me is that if I say what I think, right, I get canceled. Even though I see the value in myself and other people. To explain better what I mean, if you guys go to CIA.gov, there are documents that have been released from the CIA. Lyndon B. Johnson, his name is in there. The Civil Rights Act was passed, right? Making sure we're still marginalized. Does that make sense to y'all? With the intention of making sure that we're still marginalized. These oppressive systems still are oppressive. Now, there are things that have been put in place to mitigate the discrimination that we deal with and that we face. But I think what people don't realize is how intense and how far deep this goes, right? Taking a black man, Michael Langley, who's a 4-star general, weaponizing him against Ibrahim Traore, right? Transforming chattel slavery into our prison industrial complex. We now have more black people in chains than we did during chattel slavery. There's so many things that I could get into when I talk about what liberation looks like or what it should look like. But the United States has never given that to us. And I think we always talk about it from our perspective, but I want to talk about it from the observations that I've had of white people. And that is that white people have never had to come to grips with the fact that they are all complicit with this system that is regularly dehumanizing non-white people. They've never had to think about that. They were just told, well, stop saying the N-word, okay? You can say DEIA, you know what I'm saying? They've never had to collectively come together to educate themselves out of their racism. All they know is being racist. All they know is being racist. All white people know how to do is to be racist. We constantly get told, well, we didn't create this system. I don't care. You've maintained it. You have maintained it. You have actively chosen to uphold systems or tear down systems, right, that negatively impact our material conditions. The most frustrating part about this is all that work was put in, and we are now at this point right now, right, with the state of this country right now, raising our children in a society where they have less than what we had growing up. And not enough white people are doing anything about this. I just think that people really need to wake up and understand, right, that this beast that we're dealing with is not going to let up. That's all I'll say for now. I cannot say what I want to say because I will get canceled. But I just wish that people would wake up and understand what our circumstances are currently.
Okay, thank you, fam. I appreciate that. We're going to go up to Nichelle. We'll get James, we'll get Issa LA, and then we'll get DeMarcus in as well. Nichelle, your thoughts on the Virginia Supreme Court blocking the referendum that would have allowed the Democrats to get 4 more House seats, or certainly, obviously, if you want to speak on what you've heard today on the panel as well. I hope you had a happy birthday yesterday, by the way.
I did. Thank you so much. Speaking of my birthday, I was going to say something else about the case, but my daughter got one of those, what was going on in the year of your birth kind of things, and I was shocked. I was shocked at the amount of political upheaval that was going on during that time. That in 1973, I put in the chat. These times seem to be unprecedented, but we've been here before as a country in different ways. For the case, that when I saw it, I was really disappointed. I think there are some nuances with this case that make it even more, upsetting to me. I live in Texas, and we didn't have a say like California or like Virginia did in the redistricting. Virginia, that was voted on by voters, and the Supreme Court of the state, did what they did. I was reading about it on AP, and now they're saying that they're going to try to take this back up now. They're going to try to appeal and take this to the Supreme Court, which makes me even more nervous, because we also saw what the Supreme Court just voted on, last week, in terms of the Voting Rights Act. You bring this case up to them about redistricting, and they vote in a way that doesn't benefit Black people. You're going to have another higher case that's going to set precedents to continue gerrymandering. AP did a breakdown of all the different states that are doing this, that are taking advantage of this: California, Florida, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, Texas, Tennessee, and Utah. The targeted flips, Democrats only benefit in 2 of those, California and Utah. The rest, Florida, they're going to get 4. Missouri, they're going to get 1. North Carolina, 1. Ohio, 2. Texas, 5. And Tennessee, 1. And now we're adding Virginia. So this is a very scary time. The last thing I'll say is, to anybody who's MAGA in here, I don't want to hear shit from y'all about Democrats cheating. That's all you all said when Biden was elected. Okay, and when Trump didn't win. If that were the case, why do y'all need to go to such crazy lengths to cheat when it comes to voting systems? I don't want to hear, I swear to God, if I hear one more MAGA person talk about in the chat, and there's some of y'all in the chat that will constantly say that the only way Dems win is if they cheat, the evidence doesn't bear that out, because what MAGA is doing and what they've been doing proves otherwise.
Thank you, Nichelle. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to go to James, East LA, and then DeMarcus. And then I got some questions for the panel, and we'll continue the discussion at least another hour or so. I think this is very important. So thank you guys in the chat for everything that you do. Much love to all of you. Tap, 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 tap the screen. Now we're at 121,000 likes. All right, we're moving up. We're moving up. I appreciate that. Let's go to James. How you feeling, bro, about this decision by the Virginia Supreme Court? And also, we're also talking about what's going on in Louisiana, Tennessee, and other states in the Deep South, and what they're doing in regards to redistricting. Your thoughts?
Thanks for having me, Smitty. I'm just getting over the flu, so excuse me if I start coughing. And unfortunately for some people, it didn't take me out, so I'm still here. Listen, I think it's par for the course. It is a reminder that the systems of government that we have require work. And I think it's a reminder that people can't win without cheating, right? Like, it's really, really hard for them to win without cheating. I'm always disturbed by it. I also want to say that I think it's super important, and I'm going to say it, for people to vote this election. And while I hear that there are a cadre of people that believe that voting doesn't help, nor to sitting on TikTok panels, but you do it, So I want to encourage people to check their voter registration and vote and do all of that stuff. I think absent engaging our political system as it currently exists, we invite a continued deterioration of our rights in this country. When we think about the compromise of, and again, my brain is kind of foggy, but I think 1877 or 1860, I can't remember, 1877, right? Like, we got screwed in Reconstruction. It's in the historical record. And I think that that's a reminder of how we got back to this place when federal troops were taken from the South post the Civil War. But I think that I find myself frustrated with the one right way sentiment of this discussion regularly. I think that one right way is a tool of supremacy. You can both organize revolution and engage in the process of voting. I don't know that those two things are mutually exclusive. And I think that there were people clamoring during this previous election that both sides were the same, that the same things would happen. We said it during Clinton's election. We said it during Kamala's election. We said it when Ruth Bader Ginsburg refused to get off of the court and let Obama appoint a different justice when we had the majority in the Senate. And now here we are, because we've cut off our nose to spite our face, engaging in what ifs. The only thing that we can do at this moment is coalesce. Some people say revolution, some people say vote. I don't know that I have the answer in this moment. What I do know is that saying nothing is going to make it better in this moment isn't the answer, at least for me. I don't know that nihilism is the response in this moment. I think it is you engage the political process, you engage in organizing, and both of those things can be done. And if anybody's telling you that voting is a waste of your time, particularly when it takes 2 minutes, 3 minutes to go to the ballot box and push a button, then they are being intellectually dishonest with you, because they'll sit on a TikTok panel for longer than that telling you why you shouldn't vote. So I don't know that there's a clean answer. I don't know that there's one right way to this. I think it's going to take an amalgamation of things. Notwithstanding that, I think that we are engaging with a group of people that don't like to lose. And they're showing it because they are terrified that they're going to lose power in this sect. And I don't know that their efforts to redistrict are going to get them what they want anyway, given what the polling is saying. But we owe each other, at the very least, the basic decency of sitting and hearing each other, because I find myself frustrated. I'm going to be very direct, sitting on these panels sometimes with people that engage in nihilism and hopelessness as a tool of political discourse. It disturbs me.
Okay. All right. Thank you, James. Issa, give me 1 second. John, I got to let you go, bro. But if you got a final comment, I want to get it in for you. Go ahead, John.
No, thank you, Smitty. That I appreciate it. I couldn't agree more with what everybody was saying. I did want to. I have some other stuff to share, but I can do it on another day. But go ahead and drop me down. I appreciate it, though.
I appreciate you, bro.
No problem.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, we're gonna let John go, and then Issa, go ahead. DeMarcus, go ahead after that.
I'm respectfully requesting that I be allowed to land my plane. I won't be long. I believe that any human being, regardless of whether he is black, white, or brown, should be given the same rights in a democracy and should have the same ability, the same freedom to say and do as they please, provided they are within the parameters of the law. I do not believe in any concept of social justice regarding governmental directive. I do not believe in affirmative action. I never have. Now, let me qualify what I'm about to say. Let's say everybody on this panel who disagrees with me gets their legal wish fulfilled. At that point, what I will do is I will abide by the law. I will in no way subvert the law. I will no way lie to establish my political point of view. I will abide by the law. However, what I will not do is I will not be silent. I will continue to dissent against any affirmative action by all legal means. By the way, and this is the way I'll land my plane, regarding personal rhetoric, what we are allowed to, I don't think any word should be restricted by anyone to anyone else, regardless of color. However, having said that, I truly believe that there are certain words that you should not say to certain people, such as the N word for black people, such as the K word for Jewish people. Now, having said that, okay, what I'm about to say is I do not ever use those words, regardless of how I personally feel. And once again, I feel that I should have the right to say any word anyone else does. I will not use certain words. This is at my own discretion, number one. And number two, I will continue to dissent against any rhetorical double standard practiced or committed by anyone against anyone. In other words, if you don't want me to use the K word, I will say that is well within my right. I will establish my talking point as to why it is not right to disallow anybody to say the K word. And then, out of respect for the validity of the opposition's opinion, I will never use the K word.
Okay. All right.
Is this Gargamel from the Smurfs? What the fuck is going on here today?
What did that even mean?
Is this Gargamel? I'm so
Shout out to all of us for not interrupting. Listen, all of y'all on the panel get a gold star. All of y'all on the panel get a gold star. Shout out to us for not interrupting that mess.
I feel like I get 3 because you know how hard it is for me.
So insult. That is well within your right to insult me. I don't care.
Well,
Okay,
I'm in that
Issa
kind of
Rae,
mood
go
today,
back on mute.
Gargamel. So you could get insulted all day. I don't get. Smitty, you got to put me off today because I'm not putting up with the trailer park trash. Sir, I don't give a shit what you got to say. All right, moving right along, Gargamel. Go chase some Smurfs.
Alrighty. I think Swan, you flag. Go ahead, and then we're gonna go up to I think it is Demarcus and Erica.
Yeah, flagged just because as soon as he started breathing, but it's okay. No, I'm just playing.
East LA, what you said doesn't make any sense because you're saying that you are for equal rights, but then you were against DEIA and affirmative action. And I don't know if you realize this, but the removal of those programs has now cost UCLA, put them in a predicament where the Department of Justice just released their findings. They removed DEIA programs and from UCLA, right? Their process of becoming a medical student, a med student there. And they basically were saying that they were doing wrong by claiming that we should make it so that Black people and Hispanic people have more of an opportunity getting in, right? And so you're saying that you don't think that we should have things like that implemented, like you want to directly, actively fight those things, but then you're saying that we should have equal rights. That doesn't make any sense. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? They condemn these women they condemn these women's actions when they're trying to make things more equitable for students that are qualified. But they claim that one of their secondary parts of the application process, they have race and national origin on there, and you're allowed to circle. It's open-ended. You don't have to respond and tell what your race is, but you're allowed to circle the things that apply to you that, impact your life. So, I mean, I'm trying to understand. How is it that you would be for equal rights, but against the things that would get us to that point?
I understand 100% of what you said. And because I understand it, I also understand the validity of your point. The basic part of my point is that no person should be treated in any way different in a democracy regarding their cultural background, regarding their collective history, personal history. Yes, of course, we differentiate regarding what you did. But regarding what my ancestors may or may not have done, no, I get no differential treatment. You get no more opportunity based on your skin color, based on the history of what others collectively did to your ancestors. We all are born and we all leave this world the same. Equal opportunity, equal. And by the way, am I discounting that the injustice exists? No. What I'm going to do as a Mexican American is I'm going to continue to establish the historical facts. I'm going to continue to petition when I see injustices being committed against my people. But I am not going to break the law, and I'm not going to establish, and this is the way I land my plane. I am not going to establish any law that treats anyone different just because of the history of my people being treated different.
Okay. Who is your people?
Wait.
Who is your people?
Wait, I want to
Yeah, let me let Swan come in. Yeah, go ahead, Swan.
Yeah, so what you're doing is you're like kind of like virtue signaling, and again it doesn't make any sense. I see why everybody's so frustrated with you all the time. And I also want to remind you that when we talked about immigration for a long time, I said that Europeans should just, because sometimes, we get the white people that will yell like, Viva Europa, period, Viva Europa. Yeah, go back to Europe. Absolutely, 100%. Go back to Europe. Leave the continent. Leave Asia. Leave the Americas. Go back to Europe. 100% you should. And you said that was ethnic cleansing. So I don't believe a word that you're saying. I just wanted to test your logic. You are not for equal rights. You don't care about marginalized people. And I don't know why you came up here thinking that you were going to convince anybody up on this panel of anything that you were about to say. What you have consistently shown us in these comments and on these panels is that you are for being a tool that is used to preserve, uphold, and perpetuate white supremacy. So I don't really need a response from you. I just wanted to see if maybe you had a coming to Jesus moment. I see that you have not, so I bid you adieu. I don't want a response from you at all.
All right, thank you,
Can
Swan.
I ask a quick question because I misheard something?
Go ahead.
He said Gargamel American, or what was it? Gargamel.
All right, you guys. All right. Let me go to DeMarcus. Go ahead, DeMarcus. And then we're gonna go Erica Black Eyes. And then Carolina, I got you after that. I'm gonna get you back in.
Yeah, what's up, Smitty, everybody? So I heard a lot of I didn't hear a lot of substance. I heard a lot of basically just like self-promotion, which I'm just trying to understand because racism isn't an individual issue. You not saying the N-word or you saying it 30 times in a row and making a rap song about it does not address the issue. See, the problem is you think that all these surface level things is what we're fighting for, to not be called the N-word, to not be looked at funny. No, those actions come with other actions, because I would say 99.9% of the time, if someone's coming up to you and saying the N-word, they're doing more than just saying the N-word. They're closing your space. They're intimidating you. They're trying to incite violence. See, it's a lot of other extra stuff that comes with the things that y'all do and say when you antagonize Black and brown people in this country, because you're trying to insert fear in a situation when you're actually fearful of yourself. You're fearful of men who look like you, who have more influence and power and money than you, that they won't consider you to be a part of their class. Guess what? They already don't. So while you're fighting an individual fight not to be racist, racism is thriving alive and well in this country and is gaining more power because you have your blinders on while you're actually doing the harm intentionally and then telling us that we're wrong for addressing that. That is the Darvo that someone brought up earlier. That is the mind FUCK that you try to do to marginalize people so we don't fight back. This idea of constitutionality, especially when it comes to this thing in Virginia, is a farce. Law is interpreted. The interpretation of the law is the most important thing. It's not about the words on the paper. It's the person who's reading it. It's the person who's signing off on it. And if you have a bigoted, racist person in that seat, they're going to do bigoted, racist things, no matter how much of a racist you think you are not. And that is the issue of this entire conversation is you want to go star for something that you're not even willing to fight against. It's just weird at this point.
All right. Thank you, DeMarcus. I appreciate you. We're going to go to Erica, and then we're going to get Black Ice, and then Carolina. All right. Erica, good to have you, fam. So good to have you. What are your thoughts about what happened in Virginia and certainly what you've heard on the panel? Feel free.
I have nothing for what I've heard on the panel other than I just wanted to what? No, I just wanted to provide something because what's been happening in regards to the Virginia thing is that it's like people, in my opinion, and I of course could be wrong, it's just that it seems like people are looking at it like another type of like Louisiana versus Calais type situation, or even like what happened in Texas, but that's not what's happening here. The Virginia State Supreme Court actually ruled that the General Assembly violated the procedural requirements for this that are laid out in Article 12, Section 1 of the Virginia State Constitution, right? And so in doing so, basically what it means is that the General Assembly had to meet and they had to actually pass this legislation, but it wouldn't go into place because then what would happen is that the electorate, so the people would have had to have voted in a new House of Delegates who would then have to, this new House of Delegates would then have to pass the exact same amendment or referendum with the exact same verbiage. And so what they're saying is that that's not what happened in Virginia. They skipped a step. And the step that they're saying they skipped is that in regards to when they introduced this and passed it in the General Assembly, is that early voting was already occurring in Virginia for the special election in November. Well, I mean, it wasn't a special, but the election in November of 2024. The election was already going on. So they're basically saying that they violated because they did not give the people of Virginia enough time to select who they wanted to select for the House of Delegates. But here's the thing, Smitty. Here's the thing. The majority opinion in this is that basically in my opinion, again, a misinterpretation of what the general election is. It even goes against what the state of Virginia defines as a general election, because they're saying that people could not vote for who it is that they wanted to vote for in the House of Delegates because early voting was already going on. But in the state of Virginia, they defined general election as, and I have it right here because I was looking at that. And I was like, well, what do they define that as? So let's go back into our definitions. General election means an election held in the Commonwealth on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November or on the first Tuesday in May for the purpose of filling offices regularly scheduled by law to be filled at those times. They don't say anything about it including early voting. It only defines it as this. Now, I know Miss Michelle had mentioned the Supreme Court. Typically, and like the majority of the time, the Supreme Court does not go against states' constitutions because of the simple fact it's a state's constitution and they don't impede on states' rights unless it does go against like the federal constitution or federal law or code. But in this instance, they could take it up, right? They could take it up because of the simple fact that it's a misinterpretation of it seems like their own state constitution because they don't define general election that way, which is weird. So I wonder why. I wonder why they did that. Well, I know why they did it, but I wonder why they did that.
Right, from a strategy perspective, not necessarily
exactly.
Yeah.
But also another thing is that I agree with James is that please do still get out, register to vote. if you have the ability to take people to vote, like use your card, be transportation, take people to vote. I promise you got insurance. Everybody's covered under bodily injury liability coverage. So don't worry about that part. Additionally, another thing is the Democratic Party does have to work on messaging, because this is vote dilution, specifically of minority groups, specifically Black people, right? So I think that the Democratic Party does have to strategize and work on their messaging so that they can pull in those other voters. And the reason why is simply because, again, if you're in an 80% Republican district and you're only 20% Democratic, then what happens is that you can go vote for the Democrat all you want to, all right? But your vote is never going to hold that power in order to get a Democrat in office. So I definitely think that they have to work on what it is that they want their platform to be in order to get people in. And I really hate that, because I think it's going to lead to them being more moderate. But at the same time, man, play the goddamn game and, do what you got to do. And then once you're in there, make shit happen. Make some shit. Yeah. That's all I got.
No, I appreciate that, Erica. No, very, 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 very thorough opening comment. I appreciate it. Hitting on some stuff I don't even know if we hit on so far on the live. So thank you for that. Black Ice, how you doing, bro? Talk to me. How you feel about what's going on?
How's everybody doing? I say this, and it took it from an elder. We have two legs in the civil rights battle that we have throughout living in the United States. One is our voting power. Two is our economic power. And I think our economic power is often forgotten about how we got affirmative action, how we fought in certain things as it relates to separate but equal, and how it's affected the government federally and state. And we've got to own that in the fact that our ancestors dealt with less. We've got 21 million people that are employed in the United States that are Black. Is it 13% of the 162? Yeah, but we're in a much stronger pace to implicate more than just the Montgomery boycotts. We have the influence based upon 401k. We have a lot of money that is influencing the fabric of America. But one of the things that, Smitty, I didn't know, I didn't get confirmed, but in the state of Tennessee, is it 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 16? Something, I don't know the actual stat. I hope somebody on here knows that there is a percentage of Black people that are ineligible to vote, like a crazy statistic. Like, and it's just beyond the fact that you're parole. What's the number? Smitty?
I don't know what the number is. I'm sure somebody on the panel does.
And that's a big hindrance. And that goes back to, we have to really use both legs. And oftentimes we don't recognize or even know how strong or we're willing to put our financial strength in position.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Black Ice. Carolina, it's your turn. And then I saw Swan want to jump in too. So let's go Carolina, then Swan, then we're just going to go straight with the panel.
Yeah. I had a lot to say when the other racists were up here, but since we only have one racist up here now, I guess like all those other points are moot. Real quick, to somebody in the chat who referred to East LA as a brown man because he's Mexican, that's a white Mexican, and as a brown Mexican, I'm deeply offended. Please don't confuse us. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Yeah, so I'm really glad that Erica brought that up because about the Constitution thing, because that's what I was explaining earlier about how it was a misinterpretation of what the Constitution actually is. And you're right about the federal court, like typically they would not intervene on a state court when it's pertaining to a state constitution issue. However, this can absolutely be argued that it's part of a broader federal issue with the first of all, the national gerrymandering efforts that are being led by the Republican majority at the federal level, but then also because it impacts election day. And I think that's what Manuel brought up earlier. That is a federal election, not a state election. So that's like what's important. But then Yeah, like I think that what's really frustrating is like when the ops come up here, and I know you gotta have ops here, but you know, not all ops are created equal, and the cartoon villain does not ever do a very good job of opping properly. But the systems thing, I'm going to repeat, a correction to issues that result from racial discrimination is not racial discrimination. So I'm kind of really sick of this when people make these comments that this is racial discrimination, what they attempted to do in Louisiana, what they've attempted to do in other states to correct racial discrimination. And the reason why I'm bringing Louisiana up, I stated it the other day. In Louisiana, per Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, it's stating that there needs to be equal representation. This isn't talking about how many, ballot boxes there are, how many polling places there are, whether people are able to vote, whatever that is. It is making sure that there is equal representation. So if Black people make up a third of the population in Louisiana, it is only sensible that they should have a third of the districts represent them. And that's what they were trying to correct. So calling that racial discrimination is actually insane. The issue is when you have a country that is founded on white supremacy and racism, to the point where we have to keep going back and saying, hey, remember that part in your constitution where you said all people are created equal, except, oh, nope, Black people weren't. Oh, except my people, the indigenous people weren't. Oh, except even when you gave us amendments, you still didn't enforce the laws and we still had to create a whole act to it. I'm starting to feel like I don't think that they're as dumb as they're acting like they are. I think they know very well that this is not racial discrimination to correct the errors of racial discrimination. I think they know that. And I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. White people like them, East LA and his cadre, view any type of equality or equity for marginalized people as a threat to their own power and survival. That is not racial discrimination. And I don't know. It's hard to entertain it at this point, Smitty, because they're obtuse as fuck. Excuse my language, but they're being obtuse as fuck. They know what that is. They don't want to say it out loud. They don't want to say out loud, I don't think that Black and brown people should have equal rights as me. So they're finding all of these creative ways to dance around the topic, coming up with these procedural technicalities in state constitutions to justify their reasoning for doing this. So if we're going to throw out redistricting maps, why are these people who are up here so mad about about Virginia trying to, get more Democratic districts? Why are they not saying anything about Louisiana? Why are they not saying anything about Texas? Why are they not saying anything about Tennessee, which eliminated every possibility for there to be a Black representative district or a Democratic district whatsoever? They're not saying anything because it's exactly what they want. So until y'all can have a balanced conversation about what redistricting and gerrymandering looks like, I really don't even want to hear shit from you anymore. I prefer when racists just say out loud that they're racist. And East LA, that you are racist. Thank you very much.
All right, East LA, I'm going to let you get an opportunity to respond. Actually, let's do this, East LA, because I think Swan wanted to address. Actually, no, I think Swan wanted to address what Black Eye said. So, East LA, if you want to respond, go ahead, and then I'll let Swan come in.
Okay, I don't know who just said that, but to the person who just said I'm racist, quite simply, I'm going to say to you, no, I am not. You are absolutely incorrect, in my opinion. Now, to the person that accused me of simply addressing myself and not addressing anyone else, I'm going to say, no, you are also incorrect. The basic premise of my statement was acknowledging you as valid by saying that if any statute or law or any promotion of affirmative action is in fact passed, I will abide by the law. And I will also abide by certain social restrictions regarding what I am allowed to say out of respect for the validity of your opinion. But what I will never do, never ever, is I will never adhere to how any other human being identifies me. I will listen. I will say you have a valid point. But when it comes to my own self, who I am, I will say, no, you have no opinion regarding that supersedes mine. As a matter of fact, since I am me, my opinion supersedes you. That's my opinion, once again. So to anyone who thinks that I'm trying to establish some kind of social agenda, no. I am literally adhering to the laws and to what I think are the dividends of living in a democracy. And I love this country of America, and I always will.
One time you said. Okay. All right, let me go to Swan and then James.
I think with what you were saying earlier, Black Ice, in terms of like our spending power, I think sometimes people misinterpret that. And the reason why I say that is because, like, yeah, the dollar only stays within our community, I think, for somewhere around like 6 hours, right? So it's in our community for the shortest amount of time. And that's because of how much money it costs to be in our, I guess, financial circumstances in the United States. So I think, like, when we talk about like what a practical solution would be to the things that we've been dealing with for a long time, I think that requires like a re-education of how we understand these systems and the way that these systems function and work, because realistically, and this also goes into what I really didn't want to open the door on before, and that is understanding that a lot of us are living in survival mode, and that sometimes trying to do something without planning it out or understanding what we are going to do first does kind of, it can become really stressful, especially for those that are like the most marginalized and the most vulnerable. Like if you look at I believe it's the Labor Bureau of Statistics, most Black people are spending their money on things that they should be spending their money on, which is their housing, transportation, insurance, education. Like those are the things we do prioritize those things. So I think if we're saying that we should like boycott and stuff like that, then then we're going to be taking money away from those things that we're mostly spending our money on, but also understanding that the beast is different now. The beast is different now, right? We're talking corporations now, right? Like corporations that are making billions of dollars, right? Profiting billions of dollars. So I think that has to be taken into consideration as well. I do understand what you're saying though. And I think that there should definitely be further discussions about how we can push back. But I just think that we have to like re-educate ourselves on what our circumstances are right now, because a lot of people are comparing what we are doing right now to things that we've done in the past. And we're living in a different world. Well, I don't even think that I've had many conversations with people about techno-fascism. And that is something that is on the rise. So that's just my criticism of that point that you made. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Swan. Yeah, Black Eyes, if you want a minute real quick, and then I want to go to James. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and this is where I think, like you said, definitely a discussion needs to be had because of the fact that, like I said, 21 million. I don't know if they've done studies, but we just talked about this about a little while ago. But of that, 68% have mutual funds, right? We are in a state where a lot of our money that we allow go out, i.e. be taxes, i.e. being certain things that we naturally give, right? We don't necessarily recognize how much power we have. Like right now, like you mentioned, big corporations, we have investment in those companies based upon our 401k, whatever. We do have that power. We have power that people that we are employed by them, right? Which is a little bit more different than what happened back in the 50s and 60s when, we matched the voting power versus our economic dollar, right? So, and I think that, like I said, discussion needs to happen because a lot of this stuff factually we have, but through whatever reason, we just need to bring up more awareness of our power because we are in a better situation than what previously was and what was fought. Now, do we have the courage to do that? That's the thing. Like we have to individually say, you know what? I'm going to stand by them because the same things that prevented some people didn't go with the fight. That's fine. But the ones that did, they provided what we have a better situation of increasing those numbers. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Black Eyes. We're going to go to James. I think you want to come in with the final comment, I believe, and then we'll go to Nichelle. Let's see if we can finish strong, you guys. See if we can get to 200,000 likes in the next 20 minutes, that'd be incredible. See if we can knock out the last gift goal of the day. I appreciate it. Make sure you're showing love to the panelists, however way that you want to do that as well. Make sure you're following everybody, whoever you like to follow as well. Make sure you're doing that. And we will have about 20 minutes left. James, go ahead, bro.
First, it's always good to spend time with you. I appreciate you having me up. A little known fact, the name Gargamel comes from an old French word that means throat or gargle. I thought I'd share that. But anyway, I think we are in a very precarious time in this country. And I think that we have to use all of the tools that are available to us. And people are going to differ on that opinion, but we have to engage in our voting process. And I'm going to whittle this down to something very simple. And I'm going to use Rosa Parks, who was preceded by Claudette Colvin. Both women were on the bus. They didn't say keep sitting on the back of the bus, but yell from the back. Okay? They said refuse to give up your seat. And I think when we think about this idea of not voting as a tool that will help us in any reasonable way, that there is no way that you can cut, dice, or slice this. You must engage in the political processes because you are on the bus that is this country. And it sucks that a different set of actions isn't the answer in this moment, but I don't see it materializing. I have watched people saying do not vote on several panels, and I want to encourage people to realize how harmful that is. The harm that is being perpetuated has now put us in the position where we are losing Black seats. And I want to be clear about this. They're not if I am wrong, then stop me. Does anybody know of any other seat that is being occupied other than a Black seat that is being reorganized? Anybody? Anybody on the panel? Are there any other seats being targeted in this moment? Right. So while I appreciate the musings of people that have shit to say about what's going on with Black folk, me and my Black business go tend to me and my Black business. And the thing that worked for Black people in this country, that the historical record shows very clearly, was organizing and going to that ballot box and fighting back. And that wasn't the only thing they did. There were other things that are associated, but do not let anybody convince you that this is a zero-sum game, that there is one right way to do this. They will spend more time arguing with you in your comment section and on a TikTok panel, right, about voting than it takes to vote. I don't have the luxury for perfection. We are not going to have any answers. And I'm not taking any feedback from people that are in blue states that don't know the experience of people living in the South. I have been on this panel, and Smitty, today I'm going to go there. There are people that regularly try to antagonize from the comment section when I'm on your panels. And I want to say something. I invite you to go play fucking Chopin and kiss my ass if you don't like me. But if you're trying to tell me anything about Black people voting or something about the South, then you don't know me, because I am from the South, in a place that there was still a place when I was a kid that there was a Black people side and a white people side. And so if you're going to throw stones from the comment section every time I talk, I want you to know that I've earned my right as a Black man in this country to fight back, to say to vote. And those of you that have these little petty comments in the comment section every time I'm talking, I want to invite you to sit the hell down. Go play a piano and get the fuck out of my face. Because at this point, we are targeting only Black districts. And your cosplay revolution never materialized. The wheels broke down on it the day after the election. Now, am I going to fight? Do I think that there are things that we can do other than voting? Absolutely. And I would never take that away. But what I won't do is have people consistently disrespect me Get it how you live. Stay out of these TikTok comment sections and actually go do something. Go register people to vote or go sign people up for your revolution. But if you ain't got nothing to do other than criticize, then I invite you to go find Gargamel and join his hunt for the Smurfs because you got the wrong person. Now, I'm not. This is gonna be the last time I'm saying it's Smitty because I have been kind on this panel, but the same person every time I'm up here got something to say from the comment section. Their kneecaps got to be tired from how hard they're riding me every time I'm up here.
Okay. All right. Thank you, James.
I'm done for the day. Thank you and have a blessed one.
All right. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you. All right. Let me go to Nichelle, and then we're going to go to DeMarcus, Erica. We'll try to get Black Ice in for the final comment. Go ahead, Nichelle.
Yeah, I really just want to circle back to kind of what Erica was pointing out about what happened specifically with this case and why it's uniquely different. I would encourage everybody to, I think a good history lesson would benefit all of us as we kind of try to process what's happening here in 2026, especially with gerrymandering. And things like that. This redistricting thing looks like it's really becoming a tool that MAGA is using to affect the midterms. And I have such a major problem with that. And I think people need to wake up and realize what is happening. I know with there being so much going on, and then, I mean, everything from the war to Iran to gas prices to the economic suffering that we're kind of all collectively under. I think we need to take a step back and look at what is happening here. I watched a post yesterday. I forget who it was. He was talking about wanting to push back on, rolling back and using the courts to try to roll back the 14th Amendment. They are succeeding somehow with this, and elections have consequences. When you say that elections, don't have anything to do with you, or you're not into politics, well, politics is into you. And we think about, when we talk about voting, we think about like maybe president or Congress or senator, whatever. But these local races, right? Those were elected judges that struck down, the Virginia Supreme Court, that case, right? We have to pay attention to our local elections as well, and pay attention as to who is getting into these elected positions, because they're making decisions that are having sometimes irreparable harm done on Black and Brown communities. So that's my call to action today, is for people to kind of take a look at what happened during Reconstruction, specifically as post-Civil War, and how that led to Black codes and Jim Crow. A lot of people are comparing this time in history, Smitty, 2026, to that time in history. That's what I mean. We've been here before. And then maybe, once people get an understanding, we can come up collectively with a way to combat this. Again, I literally just turned 53 yesterday, and the fact that my daughter has less rights today than what I had at her age is extremely disturbing to me. And I think there's this sense of when things get so overwhelming that we just don't know what to do, right? They overwhelm you. I forget who it was. God, what is his name? I'm losing track of like who I'm talking about here, but the whole idea of like flooding the zone, that's what they're doing, right? They're just pushing so much in our faces that it's like we're all getting whiplash on what to pay attention to. There's always a new headline. There's always something new and egregious that this administration is doing. But I would strongly encourage people to really do a deep dive, specifically from Reconstruction and what came out of that, and how Black people had some semblance of, getting into like elected offices, and then how the Southern, white demographic was furious about that and took it all away. The last thing I'll say is that Rachel Maddow made a post, and I don't always agree with, everything that she says or does, but she did a really good post and breakdown about how there's a targeted mission from MAGA and from this administration to take out Black to take out the Black community from all points, from the Joint Chiefs of Staff to other elected positions, the librarian, I guess the DC historian, I don't know all the names, but I would encourage people to go look that up and look and see how they are systematically coming against the Black community, and inform ourselves so we are, number one, aware, and then also so that we can come up with the plan on how to combat this. Because I said this in another live, with the 92%, I'm a proud 92%er. The whole idea was y'all broke it, you fix it. We're putting up our capes, we're done. You didn't listen to us, et cetera, et cetera. But now I'm conflicted with that because I'm like, I don't trust that demographic to stand up and fight for us. I don't trust them. I don't see enough outrage. I'm starting to see some of it, Smitty, from some larger white C content creators bringing attention to all of this redistricting stuff that they're doing, but I don't see enough. And I don't see enough online, leftists coming out and talking about this either. And so I don't know if I can keep my cape up on the hook anymore because I don't trust that demographic to stand up for us and fix it.
Yeah, don't get me started on content creators and what they do and don't do and who follows who. I'll never understand how a white tea person that can recite 5 lines to a lyric to a rap song got more followers than the Swan or than the Erica or than Nichelle. I'll never understand it, but that's a whole conversation for a whole different day. All right, Swan, I know you want to say something, and then we'll go to DeMarcus, Erica, and Black Ice. Go ahead.
They haven't woken up yet. This is kind of what I was speaking on before. And I think that we have to understand this, right? When it comes to white people, they're only ever going to go as far as their comfort allows them to. I mean, we consistently have watched even like parents of adopted children that are Black or foster children that are Black or them having Black biracial children. They struggle with realizing that they have continuously shown us and their children that they will always prioritize their emotional comfort over seeing the humanity in Black people. They don't have that capability. It's impossible, right? It is impossible for them. Also, they can't stand up for us. And this is not like a pushback to you, Nichelle. This is just getting other people to understand that it's impossible for them to stand up for us. They've been trained for hundreds of years globally to always prioritize their own humanity over seeing ours. And they have now come to the conclusion, right? This is epigenetics that have kicked in after hundreds of years worth of issues, right? That their privilege and their survival depends on us being marginalized, exploited, dehumanized. They don't see it any other way outside of that. And so, which is why I don't think that I have any like much faith in what white people can do, right? I mean, we're still talking to white people who are saying, oh, I read White Rage and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, you know what I mean? How many times do we say something, we correct somebody on something and it turns into a whole argument, right? A huge argument. And also, let me say this too, because we got to wake this up. There are some white people on this app that were educating other white people, right? Or encouraging other white people to become educated. But they started acting like they ish don't stank. And what happened when they got called out for doing something that was out of line? They didn't demonstrate the behavior that they were telling other white people that they need to take on and take accountability for. They pushed back and they got defensive the same way, right? White people, y'all got to help yourselves. Black people are not the problem, right? And y'all can't help us because you don't even see the humanity in yourselves, to be all the way honest. Like, these systems have robbed you of your ability to see the humanity in others. And when you lose that ability, you don't see the humanity in yourselves. And that's the point that we're at. I do also want to say there's a flip side to this conversation that I'm going to bring up instead of going the other direction that I was going to go in earlier, which is important. Foundational Black Americans. We got to have a conversation. They called James Fishback and told him that they support him over Byron Donalds. Now James Fishback is on the internet talking about tethers, okay? They actively organized against President Mahama, addressing the UN, coming to the US to talk about reparations. We listened to these people spit on their phones, hoot and holler for 2 years, saying that their important thing for them was reparations. And then all of a sudden they've been convinced that somehow Ghana is going to take reparations away from Black Americans and the descendants of chattel slavery. We also have foundational Black Americans saying that reparations should only be given for chattel slavery because they don't want Black immigrants to get anything. Because they didn't create this foundation. They are the ones that made it possible for Black immigrants to come here. Well, why would you cut yourself off? Because if we've been here, we dealt with chattel slavery from, I don't know, I could trace my lineage back to 1732. You mean to tell me that no one should be, we shouldn't be compensated for the Devil's Punch Bowl, Black codes, vagrancy laws, mass incarceration, medical racism, the unethical experiments that were conducted on us, just because you want to set yourself aside? They have now gotten to the point of using and validating race science. I had a discussion with Tariq Nasheed on his panel not too long ago.
Really?
And this man justified phrenology. He justified phrenology. He justified race science. When you look into everything that Tariq Nasheed does, it is all demonizing African people. It is so bad. They have aligned themselves with white supremacist talking points, white nationalist talking points, and now we are dealing with people that look like us who are actively perpetuating the behaviors of white supremacy. I didn't think that it would come to this point with FBA, and understand that Tariq Nasheed is not the leader of them. He has a media presence, so they are impacted by him and they do follow him. But I didn't think it would be this bad. But when I found out that they organized against President Mahama, when I found out that they called James Fishback in support of him running against Byron Donalds, when James Fishback also was criticized for possibly having essay allegations against a minor, that is mind-boggling to me. I listened to Tariq Nasheed speak, and then I also listened to a recording of Khalid Abdul Muhammad, which I adore him. I adore that man. He was so revolutionary. He was like just very radical. And I listened to him speak, and he talked about, because I think it was Phil Donahue was the person interviewing him. Phil Donahue brought up a discussion or some statements that Khalid Abdul Muhammad made about Jesse Jackson. Now, yes, there are Black people that do disagree with each other. But the way that he addressed Jesse Jackson, he said, "That's my brother. That's my brother." Mm-hmm. Do I know that he does some things that are, maybe against, the things that we need, see, and know are important for us, right? And another person, too, that he didn't necessarily agree with, but he did not put him down in front of Phil Donahue. That was one thing that I think really stood out, is knowing, right, that Jesse Jackson, whether he agrees with him or not, is still his brother and is still being harmed by the system. And we know that the goal of the system is to create somebody who pushes anti-Blackness. That's the goal of the system, right? But he did not disrespect him in front of Phil Donahue. And I think that spoke volumes. Everything about foundational Black Americans that I have seen is them demonizing African people. And they are completely blind and radicalized to the point that, like, listen, yes, I would be considered a foundational Black American by lineage. Do I call myself that and consider myself one? No, because I see myself connected to Black people throughout the diaspora and Black people on the continent, okay? Because I didn't been called an African booty scratcher as well. We're all Black. We are all Black. But they are a beast that I did not think would be problematic. And that's something that I'm going to continue to dig into and discuss and talk about. We also got to talk about the fact that Tariq Nasheed is now putting together a package using voodoo and African spirituality to try and explain the ethnogenesis that African Americans here have had, whilst demonizing African people. It is a problem, right? Mm-hmm. When we talk about that privilege we have of being in the West versus the global South, and I don't think anybody up here on this panel has a problem with that, but think about the ways that foundational Black Americans could be weaponized against the global South, how they can help and aid in the redrawing of colonial lines. That's definitely a conversation that we have to have and have to discuss. And I'm going to continue to dig into it. But I do think we got to think about them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Swan. I appreciate it. Go ahead,
I just wanted to tell Swan something real quick. I just sent you the videos because I've got it on my page of when I argued with Tariq Nasheed back in October. But I do want to say, no matter how many times he tries to say that he is not the leader, he absolutely is. He trademarked the term. What he has done in this past year is he has edited the website to have legalese to try to have like to try to like limit his culpability and some of the actions of people who go under the banner of FBA. But yeah, he absolutely like there's a lot out there, and that movement has been proven to have connections to Ann Coulter, the Heritage Foundation, and other right-wing interest groups. So it's definitely something to monitor, y'all. Like it's crazy. They engage in both the xenophobia and the indigenous erasure, which is why I got into it with him. But yeah.
All right. Thank you, Carolina. We'll go DeMarcus, Erica, and then Black Ice. And then we are 6 minutes, y'all. So 2 minutes apiece.
So yeah, I think it's a lot of like just open gaslighting, especially with a lot of the legalese that people like to like manipulate, and they also don't understand that again, law is also interpreted. So when Tariq says, "Oh, he's not the leader," like you can have an ideological leader, like somebody that you follow for influence or confirmation of your beliefs. That's an ideological leader. So that's why they are following, like literally following them, like trying to get their every word to see if their confirmation bias is going to be affirmed or not. That's not the same thing as a leader that actually has to have progressive results. Now, when I say progressive, I don't mean ideology. I mean actually progressing for your group, whatever that may be, good or bad. And they're not even getting that. There's no power, there's no legislation, there's no influence to actually get their charters to actually be considered to be actually real in the first place, let alone speak for all Black people in this country. So that's from that. Now, as far as the white people, the reason why we're here is because white people are scared of Truth Social Post. They're scared that one day their actions are going to result in Donald Trump personally saying that they're un-American, Marxist, communist, either not a masculine man or not a desirable woman or woke. That's literally why we're here. We're here because of tweets and emotions. They are scared of men that, again, in real life, I would say maybe 90% of them could, do what they needed to do. Let's just say that. But they're scared of them not because of actual physical harm. It's emotional harm. That they are so damaged as a people, knowing that the majority of them are poor, and that one moment in the day could make them go with those people. And again, this is white people, the ones that are supposed to be supreme. So this is why nothing is actually going to happen until they're taken out of power. We have to vote. We have to change the systems from within to destroy them. They are not going to allow you to throw rocks at a Goliath. That does not work. We've been doing that. We've been progressing, but the monster is still alive. And the main people that need to be actually attacking it from within are the white people that are not going to do it because they would rather protect their emotions than actually make motions. So the action has to be deliberate. The legislation has to be deliberate. All of this, it happens to help Black people or it happens to hurt Black people has to stop. They're moving as if the words on the paper are deliberate. So our actions have to be deliberate in response. And our candidates and the people that we promote as our leaders have to be pushing that message. Otherwise, people are going to stay home. They're going to be apathetic. They're going to see that the system is the same wing, two wings of the same bird, whatever BS, because at a certain point, it becomes when you're just using wolf tickets and not actual action.
Okay. Thank you, DeMarco. Appreciate that. Let's go to Erica, and then we'll go to Black Ice, and we'll close it out, you guys.
I will be as quick as possible. I just wanted to say that sometimes and also thank you as always, Smitty. Always a pleasure to be over here. I just want to say that sometimes, especially within like this last year and almost a half, that I have felt moments of discouragement because it seems like what's supposed to work isn't working, and good is bad and bad is good. But I do take a moment to sit back and think that this ain't the first time that we've been here. I think Miss Nichelle said that. It ain't the first time that we've been here. All right. We know what we have to do. And of course, that is to continue to push forward, use the resources that we do have available, which is our minds. All right. Strategize, organize. All right. We have to get together and actually come up with ways to combat this. We have political strategists within our community. We have people who have worked on campaigns. We have people who know the law. within our communities. All right. The community is vast, it is wide, and we need to get together to actually galvanize and actually get out and do something. We definitely can keep talking about it because ain't nothing wrong with talking about it, but we have to be able to do something, get into action, because that's what our ancestors did. They did something in regards to, oh, y'all gonna kill me for this one. Boots on the ground, guys. Boots on the ground. Okay. So with that being said, we have to unfortunately play the game as they play the game, and we have to be able to utilize the law that is on the books. All right, just as DeMarcus just said, right? Because they're taking the law at its word, and I think that there is a bastardization of it, and we have to be able to pretty much just do the same. Stop taking the moral high road with these people, and just get in the game. All right, get in the game and stop sitting on the sidelines. I'm not saying that's what we're doing. I'm talking about something else, right? Stop being on the sidelines and just complaining about it and not participating. Actually get in and do something. And I think we do need to come together in order to actually be to do that. That's all.
Okay.
It's 12 o'clock, goddammit. And Black Eye still gotta go.
I appreciate you, Erica. No, thank you. No, we'll go a little bit over. All right, go ahead, Black Ice.
I'm gonna be short. We should make cut federal funding great again. That saying, that understanding of what that means, from Thurgood Marshall to now, we have the same tools and even stronger to leverage what we want, to get what we want. But I would like to say this: if you haven't got anything for your mom, get it. Nephews and nieces, make sure that they get something for their mothers on Mother's Day. Bye.
All right, thank you, Black Eyes. Yeah, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Good discussion. Go ahead, Carolina. You want to say something real quick? Go ahead.
No, I wanted to chime in on that. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. And this year is unique because Mexican Mother's Day falls on American Mother's Day this year, because Mexican Mother's Day is always May 10th. So happy Mother's Day, everybody.
There we go. All right, you guys, take care. Much love. See y'all soon.